Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Monday, March 18th, 2024, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Reed?
Here.
Councilor Hessman?
Here.
Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Starr?
Here.
Councilor Duran?
Here.
Councilor Cross?
Here.
Youth Councilor Woodard?
Here.
Thank you very much. If you are able, I ask you to rise and all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see who I should have invited up to lead the pledge. Nice job.
Good job, Liam.
Yes. We're going to begin now with our special orders of business. And our first is the Women's History Month presentation by our Community Diversity Engagement Committee member, Stephanie Cross. Issued the proclamation a couple of weeks ago. Thank you so much for coming tonight and bringing us up to speed on the history of this important proclamation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So Women's History Month is about reflecting on the often overlooked vital role and contributions of women in history. Here in Keizer, we have had our own history of women who were the backbone of the community throughout the years. Mary Keizer was a founding member of the community. She spun yarn and knitted socks. She made one pair that her husband wore on their wedding day, and the tradition carried on through her son, grandson, and great-grandson. There were many others at the time that worked just as hard as their husbands. They would help with the farming, harvesting of crops, churning butter, baking breads and pastries, preserving, canning, and pickling of fruit and vegetables from their gardens, as well as making, washing, ironing, and mending all the clothes for their entire family. Some of the families had up to 10 children. Can you imagine doing that today? Because I can't. As time went on, many other women in Keizer played important roles and made contributions. Irma Kiefer was a music teacher. Etta Milson loved growing irises. Nina McNary was the first teacher at the first one-room schoolhouse in Keizer. Mrs. Dr. D.A. Ford had an honorable reputation as a physician and passed her unusual energy of character to her daughters and son. The three of them all became doctors, and her daughters were some of the first to graduate from the medical department at Willamette University. In 1950, the Firemen's Auxiliary was formed with all women from the community. They conducted first aid, gathered food and clothing, and helped with traffic control. Another contributor was Evelyn Adams. She served on numerous boards and was a chairman, president, and a member. At retirement, her and her husband went to Guatemala, where they were house parents, and there she worked in the school coordinating playground activities and trips for the students. Some historians believe that World History Day started in 1909 as a commemoration of the garment strike in New York City, while others believe that it was first recognized in Europe in 1911. However, the date of March 8th was originally chosen due to the women in Petrograd in 1917 who went marching, protesting, and striking and demanding food and the end of the ruling members. The Women's History Day turned into a week in 1978 in Santa Rosa, California. The Education Task Force of the Sonoma County Commission of the Status of Women was initiated. They picked the week of March 8th since it was International Women's Day. Up until that time, women's history was an unknown topic in the 12 through K curriculum or even in the public, and this got national attention. In 1980, President Carter was lobbied and issued a proclamation recognizing the week. It took until 1987 for Congress to pass laws designating March as Women's History Month. During the years of 1988 through 1994, Congress passed resolutions requesting and authorizing the president to proclaim the special month. Every year since 1995, each president has issued the annual proclamation designating the month. Every year, the National Women's History Alliance sets a theme for the month. This year's theme is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. The Oregon Commission of Women gives recognition to the contributions of women who, through their works and practices, have significantly improved lives of women in Oregon. This year's recipients are Sarah Kowalski, who is an advocate for the equitable treatment of homeless individuals seeking rehabilitation, housing, employment, and care. She works as an active case manager for unhoused communities in the state, specializing in de-escalation and a trauma-informed response. Soma McKibb is a clinic healthcare analyst. She serves as a data analyst and a liaison between the UWS Clinic and the Oregon Committee Health Information Network, evaluating the clinic's performances, metrics to improve efficiency, safety, and quality of patient care delivery. And the Lifetime Achievement Award went to Liana Reeves. She has mentored hundreds of law students and new lawyers, primarily women and professionals of color. Also, she advocates on issues impacting the community of international adoptees, including the importance of the passing of the Adoptee Citizenship Act, which closes the gap for adult adoptees who came to the U.S. as children, but whose parents failed to properly secure their citizenship. I am so thankful for all the women that have made contributions to our way of life, the state, and the nation. I'm thankful to the city of Keizer for recognizing the importance of the month and for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've always took it for granted that I could vote and get a credit card and never thought twice about it. Did you know that women couldn't get a credit card in their own name until 1974? I remember watching the marches and hearing women's rights on the news, and I remember thinking, heck yes, we should have the same rights. Growing up, I was told I could be anything I wanted to be, but then I couldn't have the same later curfew as my younger brother, so go figure. I'm hoping with this, each of us will continue to do our part to continue the legacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Let's give her a big thank you. I really appreciate our Community Diversity Engagement Committee for doing research and bringing these presentations as we do the proclamations for different recognitions throughout the year. I think it's added a lot to our understanding of our own culture and history. Thank you. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to point out that today I was in the McNary Library and they had your proclamation on Women's History Month, along with all kinds of selections of books related to women and their contribution to a variety of industries. And so anyway, that just made me happy to see that and that is taking hold in our community. And I wanted to pass that along too.
All right, thank you very much. Good to hear. Thank you so much. Next up, we have the recognition of Sergeant promotion for Paul Quintero. So I think that is why a lot of people are here tonight. And we always recognize that the family, friends, community, and law enforcement family are critical to the success and of each and every officer who steps in to serve our community as a public safety officer. We are very thankful for all of you coming here and showing your support as now Sergeant Quintero advances in his career. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors and city staff and everybody else who came to listen to the council meeting. I think they're here for that, not for Quintero. So you guys can feel free to stay. Sergeant Quintero, do you want to make your way up to the front and stand awkwardly in front of everybody so we can talk about you just for a moment? Yeah. You stand right next to me so I can, there you go. So I was on Sergeant Quintero's hiring panel back over 5 years ago, probably closer to 6 with how long backgrounds take to get done. And I just remember thinking he applied as a reserve. And And I thought, that's cool. He wants to be reserve. He was working as a Nike team leader up there, logistic lead up at Nike. And I was like, man, if we could get this guy to be full-time Keizer cop, we would be so much better off. And so partway through that reserve process, we're like, hey, how about we shift gears a little bit? Can we do this? And he agreed to come on full-time as a police officer. And that was over 5 years ago. At about 3 years on, 2 to 3 years on, I remember sitting down with Quintero and talking about his future. And I was like, I was a patrol lieutenant at the time, and I was like, you do not have to wait 10, 15 years to try to promote. Because the type of leader that you are, the way you are respected in the community and within the police department, your natural leadership ability, the way people trust you and look to you and you engage, you should try to promote somewhere between like 4 and, what was it, like, don't wait that long, 3 to 5 years is possibly. And he competed against some really amazing people for this process. Some which are standing in this room right now, and I'll tell you, we are so lucky at Keizer to have the group of folks that we do. That one, we don't have to go outside the city of Keizer to find an excellent sergeant or an excellent lieutenant. But we hire really good people. And we've said this before, this is another example. We hire good people, and then we train them to be cops. He happened to have gone to a police academy down in Southern California many years ago, and then did not get brought on as a police officer. Then he went into kind of the corporate world and ended up working at Nike. But again, we're lucky to have him as a sergeant. He brings a sense of calming, a sense of trust, and the greatest dad voice I've ever heard in my life. Liam and Zoe, I know you've heard it, right? Two on the end over there. You've heard the dad voice, I'm sure. But I go on scene with Sergeant Quintero, and every time that he pulls his dad voice out, I do what he tells everybody else to do. I'm like, I have to do what he's saying. It is such an incredible, deep command presence like nobody I've ever heard. It's amazing. So this process was a little bit different than some of the past. It was, had a lot the same though too. We went out to all of his peers and asked them what they thought of Sergeant Quintero. And that was taken into the part of the process. And then we took all of those comments and all of those, whether concerns or great things, we brought them into the panel interview. And so all the panel members got to ask the questions with a full view of who Sergeant Quintero is. And he competed very well. And I think it was kind of a grassroots effort. Like, we listen to those that work with him on a day-to-day basis, and they love him. And he is gonna do this community so well as a sergeant. Some of the things that he's already done for the community is he's playing Chaparrado with a cop. He has spoken at churches, bridging the gap between like police and the Latino community, talking about gangs and different things, and just really trying to do that. He's planned a couple Coffee with a Cop events, like at Plaza Morelli, right? Morelli, yeah, I'm trying to say it right. And he has such good ideas, like moving forward, he already has a couple other things planned this year to really bridge the gap between police and the Latino community. And we are so excited for what he can do in our department, outside the department. And I'm so glad the family's here. Mm-hmm. Because without you, a good family behind what we deal with on a day-to-day basis, life can kind of suck. And so I know when I was talking to Sergeant Quintero about like what he does, what are his passions in life? One, religion, that helps a lot, right? To believe in something bigger than ourselves. So he believes in his faith and his family is what gets him through life. And he loves his family vacations down to like Cabo or Cancun is where else you go? Yeah. So I got to see where he stays at the Hard Rock casinos. I was on the golf course looking at his beautiful hotels that he stays in. But anyways, he is a great guy. We're lucky to have him. He's also a field training officer, so he gets to train other officers. As a sergeant, he'll get to mentor people, and he'll get to bring people up alongside and just really make them better humans. So to the community out there, I want you to let you know we hired a good, reasonable, calm cop that treats people fairly and with respect. That's who we hired as a sergeant. We hired him as a cop. We promoted him as a sergeant. We have lots of other people that are just like him. So when we have the next sergeant's process, we're going to promote another really good human. So anyway, super excited to have him on the administration team to advise some things that happen here. But for now, let's move on so we can be done with this tonight. Susanna, if you want to come up, you're going to take that silver badge off of him and put this gold badge on. It doesn't say sergeant because it's on order, but, so it does say lieutenant. He did not get promoted to lieutenant. He did get promoted to sergeant. We'll see. But this is deserving that you, as a lifelong supporter for him, you're there for him in his career, and you are just a blessing to him. So there you go. Excellent. All right. I gave him the option, but he would like to say a few words.
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and obviously the support in the back. When he says grassroots efforts, and Chief, it truly is. I would not be here if it wasn't for a lot of individuals back here, if not all of them, that have supported me from the beginning, that built my confidence up to be the officer that I was to put me in this position now. This is absolutely a testimony to, you'll hear the Keizer way. That's the Keizer way, through love, through caring, through support. That's what it is. That's what Keizer PD is to me. And Chief Copeland, obviously, was a big driving force why I left Nike to come here. Obviously, his enthusiasm, what he brought, it was just different. It was definitely a selling point for me when I left to join Keizer PD. And I was so excited when he became chief because I knew that enthusiasm, that drive that he has is just gonna drive this department to new lanes. To my family, obviously, like Chief Copeland, you took a lot of my words. They supported me through everything. My wife has been my absolutely rock through all the hard times, even through this process. This process is not an easy process. The other 4 candidates were extremely good candidates, and I knew that. So brings up the stress level a little bit when you're trying to go for it, right? But I know their time will come. I have absolute faith those 4 would absolutely do a great job in this position. So thank you to my parents. Obviously, my sister came from Washington, and to the council, thank you guys. Thank everybody that's up here, because without your support, we could only go as far as you could take us, right? Your voices and your comments do carry, and we appreciate that, because what's the word I'm looking for? Your support for the citizens of Keizer for their safety, obviously, goes without words, right? So your support for the Keizer PD to carry that along, to carry that safety along, does not go unnoticed, and we thank you for that, okay? And so thank you for everybody for coming. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Great job.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Sergeant. Pleasure meeting another ex-Nike guy also. Yeah, right?
Thank you, Dan. Perfect, thank you. Well, congratulations, Sergeant, and to all of the family and friends, thank you so much for coming to show the support for our Keizer police officers and for our newly promoted sergeant. Congratulations. We do have one more special order of business, but I would like to press pause for a moment to offer courtesy. We do have County Commissioner Colin Willis with us tonight. If with council's concurrence to bring him forward to offer his testimony, then we will go to our presentation from Marion County Health. So this will be a nice segue. So Commissioner Willis.
Mayor Clark and Keizer City Councilors, thank you for welcoming me here. I know this is a little bit unorthodox, and I didn't call anybody and say I was going to be here because I didn't actually know I was going to be here till like Friday of last week, and then St. Patrick's Day is kind of a big deal in my family. So I just thought I don't get the chance to kind of visit with you all at once. And what happened last Friday was I was looking forward to my week this week, and I realized that we're doing the groundbreaking for the soccer fields in Keizer Rapids Park. And I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you all are doing on that. I think it's really, really exciting. And then the other thought that came to me was, I imagine you guys are also working on how are we gonna run these things once we have them. And so I just wanted to come and share with you my hope that we can make it affordable. You know, there's not a lot of fields, turf fields in Marion County. So if this were to just go on the market, if we were just gonna charge whatever the market would bear, it probably wouldn't be affordable for regular people. And I know when we started this project, that was kind of why we put public money into it, is to make sports affordable for people, right? And so anyway, that's the only reason why I came. And like I said, I was like, oh, they have a meeting on Monday. I'll just go do public comment and I'll get to talk to all of them at once. So we don't get to have this opportunity very often. So I just decided to use my rights as a citizen to publicly comment to an elected body. So I hope you're not offended by that. And thank you for entertaining me. I appreciate it.
Well, first of all, thank you for approaching us about putting in the soccer fields, you know, being able to be part of a solution to a huge need in our region for good outdoor recreation space, and recognizing that we had the place to do it. And actually, on the next steps, I'll turn over to Mr. Brown.
Next steps. We have the groundbreaking on Thursday at 4:30 out there, and we'll have plenty of shovels for anybody who wants to join us. We've had invited the county commissioners, obviously, and the city council, the neighborhood association that abuts the facility, and also the work team that has been helped us in the design work for it. So the expected completion is by the end of August, and we're working out different scenarios about how to operate it. We did a pro forma on the front end of what we expected fees might be, and we're doing some legwork on what our folks around us are charging, and we're still doing some more work on that. So we're going to look at options to make it the most affordable facility that we can make it.
Thank you.
So, thank you for asking the question. It really helps to get it out there that, yeah, this is a comprehensive project. It's not build it and we know they're gonna come, so we better be ready to be a good host.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mayor Herc, and thanks for all the work that you do.
Well, are you gonna be there on the 21st?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
You know,
I'll see
bring
you
those
there.
gloves. We'll get those shovels turning.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, Marion County Youth Tabasco, wow. I guess it's a hot topic.
Oh, my goodness.
You're welcome. Tobacco and substance use. Thank you so much for being here. Always good to see you, and we get to learn a lot about what is happening for families in our community.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. It's really nice to be here. My name is Diana Dickey. I'm here with my colleague Connor Foley. We are from Marion County Health and Human Services Health Promotion and Prevention Team. So we're here tonight to share some information around youth substance use and some ways our team can partner. I'll turn it over to Connor to share results of a survey that we sent to city councilors last fall and some tobacco information. Then I'll share about alcohol, cannabis, and other drugs.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Connor Foley. My area of concentration on our team is tobacco and nicotine prevention and education. So I'll talk a little bit about a survey we sent out last fall and then go into my area. Last fall, we sent a survey out to all city council members across the county, just trying to get their input and take the temperature essentially on youth substance use in their communities across the county. We found a few trends. We broke down into sort of 3 different areas, opioids, nicotine, and cannabis, which for those of you who may not use this all the time, cannabis is just referring to marijuana. One of the things we found with regard to opioids was that while there was a very high level of concern, there was a relatively lower level of knowledge about opioid use and abuse in our communities. Those 2 things, knowledge and level of concern, are key indicators for us in our work about what people are ready to do as a next step. For nicotine, there was both a relatively high concern and a relatively high level of knowledge, which represents familiarity with that, has been around for a very long time. Cannabis, there was a relatively lower concern and a relatively higher knowledge. So just comparing how folks think about these different substances with regard to youth. We also asked about sort of what additional community efforts folks thought might be effective to confront some of the challenges we face in youth substance use. Education was the very first thing that most people mentioned. Additional policies was also mentioned, and then access to greater treatment or greater access to treatment resources was also mentioned. We asked counselors what were some of the obstacles they saw in their community. Money, social media, peer pressure, and lax enforcement of existing age restrictions on vendors were several of the cited reasons. We also asked about strengths. They mentioned education in schools, youth serving organizations, parental guidance, and a shared desire to tackle this issue. So that just helps us give a sense of what you all are coming to the table with and what resources we can help share. When we talk about youth substance use, tobacco and nicotine might not be the first thing that comes to folks' minds as the most concerning issue. However, tobacco continues to be the leading cause of preventable death at the county, state, and national levels. That might not be the case, or it might not seem like the case when you look at Marion County's rate of adult cigarette use, which is 14%. But that 14% translates to 36,900 adults who regularly smoke cigarettes in the course of 1 year in 2022. 17,730 people who had a serious illness caused by tobacco, and 528 people who died from tobacco-related causes. Additionally, you can see that our rates of adult cigarette use in Marion County lag behind both the state average of 12.6% and our community health improvement plan goal of 13%. So clearly there is more work to be done. That is even more clear when we consider the challenge of youth tobacco use. Inhalant delivery systems, which are commonly known as vapes, have been manufactured to contain increasingly higher concentrations of nicotine. This has made them even more addictive than cigarettes. A commonly cited fact several years ago might have been that 1 vape is equivalent to a pack of cigarettes. Today, that is more common, might be more realistic to say 1 vape is equivalent to about 5 packs of cigarettes or more. Flavored products, the vapes that we see may be newer to the market, but the strategies used by Big Tobacco are not new. Flavored products have been the primary marketing tool used by Big Tobacco to hook youth. The image that you can see on the right is a little bit small, but it compares vaping products on the left to common food products on the right. And it comes as no surprise after looking at those that 64% of 8th graders and 63.4% of 11th graders who used tobacco in the past 30 days reported using flavored products. It's by far the most commonly used product for youth. Even though it's been illegal for youth under the age of 21 to purchase tobacco since 2017, youth are still accessing these products at very high rates. The 2022 Student Health Survey showed that more than a quarter of students who vape report they got their tobacco or vaping products from sources under 21, either directly from stores or gas stations themselves, or from friends and family members under 21. Marketing for tobacco products has been dramatically restricted since regulations started in the 60s and 70s to limit marketing on TV and radio. So the marketing marketing in the retail environment is one of the last forms for the tobacco industry to market to, especially to youth. It makes up 97% of their total marketing expenditures, and these take the form of price discounts and promotional allowances for retailers to make tobacco products very cheap and very visible. Marion County has a total of 276 licensed tobacco retailers, and after passing the tobacco retail licensure in 2022 at the state level, every store is being inspected annually to comply with local regulations and minimum legal sales age, which addresses some of those concerns mentioned earlier about lax enforcement of existing age restriction or age levels. In 2023, a total of 43 Marion County tobacco retailers sold tobacco products to persons under the age of 21, including 4 of the 31 retailers in Keizer, as shown on the map to the right. This is a slightly enlarged version of the same map, which also shows school locations and a buffer of about 1,000 feet around schools. As public health prevention professionals, our goal is to address problems at their roots. We are currently working to address commercial tobacco and nicotine in a number of ways. We have some strategies that seek to help individuals make healthy choices. We work with schools and community organizations to offer evidence-based curricula and other educational resources. We also have strategies that seek to impact the environments in which choices that affect our health are made. This policy system environmental change work is a great opportunity for us to collaborate with you. And we offer support for policy work by providing resources and technical assistance for identifying and developing effective policies. Things like the smoke-free environment policies like smoke-free parks that Keizer passed almost a decade ago have been very crucial to limiting exposure to secondhand smoke and influential in setting new community norms around smoking. Some of the opportunities to expand that work include looking at policies like smoke-free outdoor dining and expanding protected distance under the Indoor Clean Air Act beyond 10 feet. I'll just finish before passing on to Diana to say that this is a very short presentation and we could speak for hours on this topic and would welcome your questions and further engagement about anything you've heard here tonight.
Whoops. All right, switching gears here, talking about, oh, what happened? Wait.
Just click, just left click.
Okay, see if it goes. Oh, there we go. All right, so this map, and I apologize for the small numbers, but I'll tell you what it is. This is an overview of alcohol and opioid hospital visits by zip code. And the darker the color, the higher the concentration. So the green map on the left is for alcohol overdose visits, and this by zip code of where someone lives, not which hospital they visited. So we have our highest concentration of those visits, and this is any age, by the way, in like 97301 zip code, but then alcohol kind of goes north in our county from there, and so Keizer is one of our higher zip codes for concentration. And then the map on the right, the orange one, is for opioids. Kind of a similar thing. It goes north a little bit, although we see more opioid overdose visits from our southern zip codes. Doesn't quite go north like the alcohol map does. So in terms of youth and substances, so we have about 30% of our 11th graders have told us they've tried marijuana at least once. That number has gone up, of course, after marijuana was legalized about 10 years ago. And 13% of 11th graders have said that they've used marijuana in the past 30 days. This is from the Oregon Student Health Survey. So it's concerning. In terms of alcohol, about 10% of our 11th graders have said that they've used alcohol in the last 30 days. Pretty concerning, though, in the last time they were asked on the Student Health Survey, this is students around the county, they told us, most of them told us they got the alcohol from their parents with permission from their parents. And we know that there's other counties where kids said they got it from their parents without permission. So they were, going to the liquor cabinet. But we're hearing here in Marion County, parents, family members are giving it to students. So we know there's some parent education that needs to happen. In terms of medications, we have our sixth graders report using prescription medications that aren't theirs at the same rate as 8th and 11th graders, also concerning. We're just hearing about younger and younger students getting into things like this. We're hearing about elementary students vaping, and so we know that we've got some parental education to do, parents of young children, of course. And fentanyl overdose deaths are the fastest growing among youth, and I'll be talking about fentanyl here in a second. But before we get to that, our team did some youth listening sessions last year they did some in the Salem area, some in the rural areas. Here's just a few comments of what we heard from students about, vaping, how common vaping is. They told us family members give them alcohol, and we heard high school students express concern for middle school students, and they said, we never did anything like that when we were in middle school, but we're seeing middle school students vape. So that's concerning when we're hearing that from the youth. All right, so I want to take a minute to talk about fentanyl. I get a lot of questions about fentanyl. So this graph specifically, the orange line is Marion County, the blue line is the state of Oregon. So we can see in 2019, we weren't having fentanyl overdoses, and you can see how that has spiked in the last few years. And in 2023, the rate in Marion County surpassed that of Oregon for fentanyl overdoses. And these pictures here are just a tiny bit of drug seizures that have happened in our community over the past year. So here's just some really quick facts about fentanyl. It's about 100 times stronger than morphine. So it's very, very addictive, and it doesn't take very much. That pencil, and I have another picture, but that pencil, you can see a couple little white specks on top of it. That's about the amount of fentanyl that it could take to cause a lethal overdose for the average person. So it's concerning when it is put into pills that are sold as OxyContin or Vicodin or something like that, but in reality, it's fentanyl. Because have this synthetic fentanyl that's being made into pills because it's so cheap. The people making these illicit drugs, they just put it in there because it doesn't cost them very much. It's highly addictive, and the high wears off really fast, and so people come back for more. So on the one hand, we have people that specifically seek out fentanyl, but what's happening with youth in particular is they're seeking out something else. They may go online or go to a friend, or they're at a party or something, and they're seeking out, they think they're getting an Adderall or a Xanax or an OxyContin, when in reality, it's a fentanyl pill, but it looks like something else. And so that's why we're having so many youth overdoses. So here's another example just to show you. So on the left, that's a lethal dose of heroin versus on the right, a lethal dose of fentanyl. So it really just doesn't take much. Some strategies that we are using now, we're working to, there's just a more availability of Narcan or naloxone in the community, which is a medication that can reverse an overdose. So we're starting to see that more. It became an over-the-counter medication recently, and so it's more available to people. Community awareness, such as what we're doing here today, and then there was a Senate bill that was recently passed, so starting in 2024, schools have to teach a lesson on fentanyl and opioid prevention. So Connor talked a little bit about some of the strategies that we use. So sharing information, this would be for any of the substances we're talking about, prevention education, going into schools, helping kids develop skills to refuse using substances, creating positive alternatives for youth that are substance-free, whether that's extracurricular activities or, whatever helps them have opportunities that they're not being exposed or tempted by substances, coalitions, community-based initiatives, and then laws and policies like Connor talked a little bit about. And before I get to this last slide, I do want to say we really appreciate being able to partner here in Keizer. Someone from our team usually attends Keizer United and gets to see all the great work that is happening in the community, which is very, very exciting. We have a substance use coalition that is working on a drug take-back day that we're working with Chief Copeland on that. That's going to be on April 20th over at Day Spring Fellowship, and people can bring their unwanted or unused prescription medications if they need a place to dispose of it. So that's just in the planning now. We're really excited to be able to do that. So we have had some really great partnerships here in Keizer, and we really do appreciate that. So some other things we can do, just any technical assistance for other prevention initiatives, doing presentations, policy development, sharing the data with folks. We're always happy to talk with communities about anything that they're interested in, and maybe there's some other ways we can partner that we haven't thought of, but we might be able to help you out. So always willing to have those conversations. And I'll just end with our vision at Marion County Public Health is a thriving community where all can live healthy and purposeful lives. And so that's what motivates us to do what we do every day. And with that, that's it. If we have any questions.
Thank you very much. Microphone on. Thank you very much. This has been very informative. We really appreciate you coming and sharing this work. Looking forward to the Drug Take Back Day. Chief, we also have, during business hours, if people have medications they want to drop off at the police station, is that correct?
That is correct. It's open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, drop off any prescription that is left over. Yep, excellent.
Fantastic. Anyway, we're all doing spring cleaning, so if you find things that you're not using anymore, please drop them off and, or bring them on April 20th. Questions from council? Councilor Hussman.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Thank you both for coming and for giving us this presentation. This was very informative, and I do hope that the broader Keizer community takes stock of what you presented here. The alcohol numbers in particular, I think, were eyebrow raising. I saw a few in the crowd, and it's funny too, because we recently approved liquor licenses for restaurants and other avenues in the city. I think the one commonality that they all have too, every place that sells liquor or beer in the city also has a parking lot or designated parking spaces. So we also have a lot of people who are drinking and driving, and that's something I know we need to work on as a community. But while you two are here, if you could please, I'd love to keep this presentation going a little bit. Help us bust some myths, if I may, just one from each of you, something that the community is thinking related to alcohol, related to tobacco, related to drugs, that is a common misconception that you both would like to address here while we have the public platform.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. There's a lot of misconceptions around vaping in particular, because it is it's something newer in the community. When we go to present to youth, one of the first things we talk about is why it's called vaping. And it was an intentional strategy by the tobacco companies and vaping companies to give the perception that it's just water vapor, it's harmless water vapor. The truth is that it's actually an aerosol, it's not a vapor, and that aerosol contains many different chemicals and particulates that can embed in your lungs. The other very common misconception is that it's less dangerous than cigarettes. So not only is it more addictive than cigarettes, as I mentioned earlier, but every study that we're seeing come out about the health consequences from vaping leads us to believe that it's just as dangerous, if not more dangerous in some ways, than a nicotine addiction through cigarettes or cigars.
So something I hear a lot, and I would like to emphasize is, I hear that a myth is that driving under the influence of cannabis or marijuana is not as bad as driving under the influence of alcohol. It is impaired driving. It is subject to impaired driving laws, but it is important to understand. So I didn't have this stat up on the slide, but when students were asked about if they did consume alcohol or if they did consume cannabis, did they get in a car and drive? Most of them did not. shot if they had consumed alcohol. We've done a good job of saying don't drink and drive, although we want that number to be 0. Like when I say like 2% perhaps. And it was closer to 20% of students who had consumed marijuana said, yeah, I got in a car and drove. So definitely want to make sure and get the word out that driving under the influence of cannabis is impaired driving.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Chief, would you please address the comment regarding alcohol and DUI in Keizer?
Well, we do have people that do drink and drive. And I would throw in there as the listener is listening to this or somebody's watching this that, and you know this very much, we've talked a lot about prescription medications can lead to impaired driving as well as other, like there's just, it's a lot of things. If you're impaired, you're impaired. With the comment about the DUIs and drinking in the parking lots, I mean, that does happen. And we do, just like this last weekend, we had DUI Enforced Patrol out with Officer Powell was out. We do try to address those things as much as we can. We have really good relationships with business owners and people who run the stores that they'll call us if they find impaired people, and then we deal with them as we can. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Other questions? And I would encourage folks who would like to see the PowerPoint, it is included in the council packet. It's available online at keizer.org. And to please feel free to share it out. And if people want to get a hold of you, is there a slide in there or with your contact information?
Did you hand out the
Yeah.
fact sheet?
I'm not sure that we have it on the slides. Let me see. Very beginning.
Oh, it's on the handouts,
Yeah,
which is
that's
also in
right.
the
Yeah,
packet.
so on the handouts
Yeah.
that we passed out are both of our contact information, and we'd be happy to answer more questions. I'll also just put in a plug for the rest of our team. We have folks who work on problem gambling, who work on youth engagement, environmental health resiliency, mental health promotion, suicide prevention. So if you're interested in looking to improve the health of your community, we have lots of folks who would love to engage with you.
All right, well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here and working so hard on behalf of the people in our community for health.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Before we go to our committee reports, I do have one more special order of business, and that is we were in receipt of a certificate of award from the Daughters of the American Revolution. Was sent to us from the Chemeketa chapter of the DAR, certificate of award to the city of Keizer for proper use, correct display, and patriotic presentation of the flag of the United States. So thank you to the Daughters of the American Revolution, for whom we do an annual proclamation for Constitution Week in September. Thank you much for this recognition that we try to make sure that we are properly honoring our country with the presentation of the flag. And I know that Councilor Kohler checks especially, he has a great deal of background with our scouts to make sure that we do it properly. And I appreciate his attentiveness to this, as well as all of us and our staff. So thank you very much. And thank you to the DAR for their work. We will now go to committee reports. I've got a few people signed up, and I'll start off with Matt Lawyer from the Keizer Creek Watershed Council.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. For the record, Matt Lawyer, and Madam Mayor, if you'd indulge me, unfortunately, Commissioner Burson couldn't be here tonight to report for Planning Commission, so I'm be happy to punt for him if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Great. So starting off with the Keizer Creek Watershed Council, it's an organization I've been volunteering with for approaching 13 years. I've been the chair for the last 7 years. I'm very happy to announce that I've handed that position over to my good friend, Jeff Anderson. And Jeff was part of sort of the second wind of the Keizer Creek Watershed Council, and Mayor Dennis Coho brought it forward to reinvigorate that group. And Jeff has a little bit more time on his hands than I do these days. And so he is going to bring not only his energy and his wealth of knowledge about the council, but also a little bit more time in his calendar to be able to do the really good things necessary to kind of push this thing forward. And so his abilities is only rivaled by his passion and desire to do great things with this group, and we're very excited to have Jeff take that over. So coming up, we just had a meeting here last week, and we talked about a number of different things. Specifically, we are getting ready to start planning Soggy Day in the Park, 3-point, 4-point, whatever something. It's going to be great this year. For those of the uninitiated, that is our annual Give Back to the Community event. It's brought forth by sponsors throughout the city of Keizer and the city of Keizer itself, where we basically have a free day in the park, and we have bounce houses and free food and free ice cream and just kind of a ruckus fun day. And it's going to be happening again this year. We stumbled upon Memorial Day as being a very good weekend for it. And last year, I think we saw somewhere about 350 people over the course of the day. Although I'll say that Gracie's Sweets and Treats gave out 500 ice cream cones last year. So that was pretty incredible. So we're going to be bringing that back again this year. And so keep an eye out for that. We're working on a couple other projects. One of the things that I want to kind of talk about is the Wallace House project. Going back to, gosh, probably 6 years ago, it was something that Chief Teague and I were really excited about, which was trying to get into Wallace House and do some clearing out of that area. And thankfully, because of the great work by Public Works, they were able to get in and actually clear cut most of that and create a space that's actually increased the habitat down there, probably greater than we've seen since before the flood in '96. There are deer down there on a regular basis. We're hearing about turkeys running around on the southwest part of town. And we're continuing to build on the great work that's been going on year after year down there at that project. And I really want to give a shout out to gosh, I'm going to get it wrong. Southwest Keizer Neighborhood Association for all of their great work. Did I get it right?
West Keizer.
West Keizer. Yeah, sorry. See, Carolyn, you gave me stage fright. I'm going to blame Carolyn just because she's right there. And Rhonda, Rhonda even, they're so amazing. So, they come out every year. Rhonda brought donuts this year, and it's just such a great project. And so fast forward to 2 days ago, we had our 14th annual Civic Center cleanup. And there were about 100 people over the course of the day. The project got started actually on Friday with volunteers coming out doing all the hedge trimming. Bunch of volunteers getting here early Saturday morning, getting things staged, wrapping up, and then going on and doing some additional work yesterday. And I just want to thank Mayor Clark, Councilor Reed, Councilor Kohler, Councilor Starr, Councilor Duran for being there at some point throughout the day. Tim, I think you ran 5 or 7 miles first thing in the morning, and then went and played in the trash bin again this year. And Chief Copeland's deleted my phone number and blocked me on every email and social media because I messaged him and said, hey, are you willing to fill in for Chief Teague? And he says, yeah, not a problem. I'll bring some lieutenants. What I didn't tell him is Chief Teague spent the last 2 years in the trash can with Tim doing all the suck work. So. I'm sure I owe you at some point, Chief. And then Joseph was out there, and City Manager Adam Brown was out there, and we had some other folks. And it was just such a great experience. It was beautiful. What did I miss? Oh, Melissa. Yeah, of course I can't. You were saving the best for last. Melissa got there straight away, got everything opened up. She brought the cookies, she brought the water, and as I understand it, it was a really, really good family day, which is great. And so yeah, it was a beautiful day. Got a little bit of sunburn. Got a lot of work done, and we're really excited about that. So it's great to see everybody coming out and doing really good work in the city. So that debris bin was pretty much close to full. Not as good as last year, but it was pretty close. So I'll pause there if there's any questions or comments or thoughts on that, and then I'll move over to Planning Commission real quick, which will be a lot quicker.
All right. Anything on Claggett Creek Watershed Council? It was a great day. The campus looks great. Thank you to everybody who came out for this annual event. People of all ages. I saw some families out there with littles that they're teaching them how to pick up a shovel, help push that wheelbarrow and get involved. And of course, both of your kids were out there bright and early with you, and they just know, okay, it's time to go, and they show up and they work hard.
Yeah, they wanted that pocket pie yesterday, so I guess that mattered. So switching gears, Planning Commission, we met last week with the Planning Commission, and if we go back all the way to September of 2023, one of the themes that was brought up was what can the planning commission be doing to more thoroughly engage in the overall process? And Shane and Dina brought forward some really good work. At the time, the planning commission just wasn't quite ready to look at that, but we actually went back and revisited it last week, and we looked at the opportunity for another item. But specifically, what came out of the planning commission's recommendation was right off the heels of all of the work we did last month on the strategic plan conversation. And one of the key themes that we honed in on was specific to public participation. And so one of the things that we've asked Shane to come back and bring to us is that all minor variances would be appealable to the planning commission. The planning commission would see and hear all major variances, all conditional use permits, and any master plan amendment, and obviously new master plan. And then in addition to that, we are looking at making I'm gonna get this wrong, we're making the maximum size of, we're looking at making the maximum size of a garage 750 square feet. And so those will be text amendments that Shane and Dina and our new city attorney will be looking at over the course of the next month or so, and we'll probably see that sometime in May. But that's really centered around making sure that we have the opportunity for neighbors to be able to weigh in on things that impact their community. And I think that I'm going to quote Commissioner Granson that if you're going to break the rules, you're going to come talk to us. And it's not that it's an overt or a wanton breaking of the rules, but it's outside the scope of the development code. And it's just a really good opportunity for the public to be able to come in and have a conversation and say, this is why this works or this doesn't work, and us be able to engage with our neighbors and make sure that we're really doing a good job to have that community conversation where it's appropriate. And so we're really excited about the work that's done there, and looking forward to that conversation in May. And so if what I'm saying tonight is something that you're interested in, I would very much encourage you to come in May. And I said that, I think, what was it, a couple months ago, and then Kathy Lincoln came and showed up and said, hey, I heard you say, do you want us to be here? And so I'm happy that at least one person's listening, and so I appreciate that. But we want to encourage more, and I want folks to be there. Councilor Hussman came and audited our meeting, which was great. Thanks for being there. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to the good work, and very happy to have our new city attorney on board. And he hasn't quite got used to me yet, but he will, maybe. But yeah, good work.
That's going to cut two ways. All right, thank you. Any questions on the planning commission report? All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate the work of the entire planning commission. This is always a heavy lift group, and you all really dig in and do your homework because this is really important for Keizer. So thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, Soggy Day at the Park, mark it on your calendar, Memorial Day weekend, be there or be square. All right, Parks Board, Lisa.
I have a single visual aid.
If you hand it to Melissa, then we can pass it around.
And Robert has this, and I have copyright on 6 of these photos. 'Cause
Okay.
I emailed them to Robert.
Johnson, I take it.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The
But-
Robert.
All right.
Yeah.
So what we can do is pass this around, and then since they are copyrighted, if you give.
They're just my intellectual property, which I share with you freely.
Yes, you do. If anybody wants to see beautiful photography of Keizer, follow her photography on Facebook. It is amazing. With that, I turn it over to you.
Madam Mayor, council members, staff, it's so lovely to see you today. It's hard to be here tonight when it's such a beautiful March evening. But no, I'd rather spend it with you. I like all you. So we had a parks meeting last Tuesday, the 12th. And this piece of paper that's coming around is illustrating our continuing problem with graffiti. Willamette Manor Park was hit quite strenuously. The front page is all Willamette Manor except for the very bottom. That was taken by park staff, and that is the bathrooms at Keizer Rapids. If you do the second page, those tire tracks are somebody who went into Bob Newton and decided that they should drive around the grass in Bob Newton, which is a tad bit spongy. You know, it's winter here in Oregon. So they tore that up. And then they also, there's some pictures of the swimming clubhouse, whatever, right next to Willamette Manor. that was hit as well.
The, holiday,
Holiday Swim Club. What I will tell you though, that even though if you look at that, that's awful. The red was so, the park, they repainted the pump house. It's starting to bleed through a little bit. If you know it was there, you can start to see that the red's coming through the gray. So they're gonna go back out there and paint over it again. But if I hadn't seen it at 7:15 in the morning and taken those pictures and sent them in, at 8:30 in the morning, I wouldn't have noticed it if I had been walking by the park, because by that time, the sign was gone and the paint on the garbage cans was gone. And by 3 o'clock that afternoon, all of the graffiti, the park's staff had painted over every bit of graffiti in that park. So if you blinked, you wouldn't have known that had happened. I mean, that's how fast and how wonderful our park staff are.
kudos. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
If I may, I want to acknowledge that it's more than park staff. It's
Okay.
water department staff, street staff.
Yes.
And sometimes even environmental and stormwater staff.
Yeah.
That attack these problems, as fast as we're made aware of them, so.
Yeah, no,
It's
thank
the
you.
entire Public Works Department.
Okay, well, I know about the parks people. I know that the water department has to do the pump house,
Right. But we,
but yes.
as a team,
Yes.
attack these things as quick as we can get on them, so.
It's
I appreciate
phenomenal.
that.
I mean, it's phenomenal how quickly that's taken care of.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you. I will share that with you.
And, and the other thing is, Robert Johnson brought to us printouts of those pictures that they had taken, that I had taken. Me talking to you about graffiti, oh, it's graffiti, it's awful, but seeing those pictures, seeing the just scope of all of that is, it's eye-opening. So, anyway, thank you. Other thing we talked about, I guess if I'm going to be upstaged, it's good to be upstaged by a county commissioner. I was gonna talk about the turf fields, how, the dirt work is going really, really well. They hit that as fast as they could, because you never know about spring in Oregon. And so they've been doing good work. So the groundbreaking at 4:30 this coming Thursday, the ground is broken already. We're gonna just break it a little more. All right. I'm supposed to tell you that picket slats at the Big Toy are still for sale. There's a link on the website, thekeizer.org. They're $50 a piece. And if you want them to be in a certain place, or if some family members have pickets and you have new family members and they'd like to be together, we can't guarantee it, but if you email, they will do their best to accommodate you. So that is that, because this is Keizer. Keizer's family. And then, let's see, we had Jenny Ammons, the environmental coordinator, come to our parks meeting and talk to us about a tree plotter inventory. And there's a volunteer training, May 4th, where they're going to train volunteers. We're gonna go and we're gonna walk Keizer, and we're going to use this app, and we're going to, see what kind of tree it is and where it is. So try to map the trees. And in the parks, that's an easy sell, but walking along River Road or walking along Chamawa and doing all of those trees is a little bit harder sell. But there is a training on May 4th.
Cool. What time?
I do not know.
Okay.
9 to 12. Okay, I had the handout, but I don't have the handout anymore. I just have the agenda item.
9 to noon. on May 4th.
9 to noon. It's going to be outside. We don't know if it's going to be recorded, so that if people volunteer after that they could watch that training. It may be repeated. I do not know. Jenny knows. Jenny's super smart and very nice.
Yes.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is we gave away a small chunk of money to a very nice young adult named Connor, who loves Bear Park. And what he wants to do is he wants to go in there and get rid of the invasive species, and he wants to replace them with native species of plants. So he put together a whole presentation. He figured that the whole project was worth over $7,000, but he asked us for 512 for plants, so that he could go in there and do all of that work, because he just loves Bear Park. So we gave away a little bit of money. We still have grant money left. We have $13,800 left. It's getting to be that time of year where if you have something you want to do, please jump on it, because your project has to be completed by June 30th. And it's March. And our next meeting is in April. So, anybody out there listening, I'm gonna say really quietly under my breath, garbage can holders. Because again, I love the garbage can holder in Keizer Rapids Park. I talked to Don today and told him about it, how much I liked it again. And the guy writing with Don said, oh no, now he's gonna talk about that all day. So, I'm sorry. And with that, are there any questions?
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to, Bear Park is an Eagle Scout project, and so a
Yes.
little pump there for Eagle Scouts.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and encourage people who would like to apply for these grants, the Keizer.org website, you can find that application and get that project going. All of us were out this last weekend who could. We're doing yard work. It's time to do yard work in our parks.
And we're nice at the Parks Board. We are very friendly, so coming and presenting your project is not a problem. We're happy to see you.
Yes, indeed. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Gerloff, Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association.
Thank you. Ken Gerloff, Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association, Madam Mayor, council members, distinguished staff. Thank you for having me. This is our annual report. Probably our best event for the whole year was our National Night Out. We have great attendance. We had good food. We had lots of people. Some of the staff that came by kind of lingered a while, so they're probably kind of late to some of their other appointments, but we were glad to have them. And it was a great event, thanks to Kevin there at the, what's it called? Gosh, anyway, he donated both the hot dogs and the chips for that event and cooked for us. We've been real involved in kids' safety, as you know, with our new signs that are up and working, and they seem to be watching people go by. I see them look at their speedometers when they see the speed signs, so it has some effect. How long-term, we don't know yet. We'll see how the next study tells us how we're doing. But we're real happy about that, and we've been working, trying to make sure we have crosswalk guards, and we've been pressuring the school district quite a bit to make sure we got our kids safely to and from school. We've been working a lot on nuisance abatement. We had a little help from a fire this year that cleaned out one of our long-term projects. Now we have a duplex there, and it's much nicer, but I'm sorry for the folks that lost their place, but it was a great improvement, unfortunately. Also, we're inundated with graffiti. We've been clobbered real well, but we have about 3 real dedicated volunteers that have been out and just cleaning it up lickety-split, so it's been staying pretty nice. So that's something we've been working on. We attended the resource fair at Weddell, did a lot of outreach, passed out a lot of our threefold flyers about the neighborhood association. Same thing with the Keizer birthday celebration. We manned the booth, gave away, I think, 40 flyers or something, put in people's hands, which was quite a bit for us. We've done 3 printings of our bifold, and we still have some up by the water department and some at the Chamber of Commerce for people to pick up and learn about us. We participated in the candidate forum this last year. We have brand new signs. We just got 10 new signs. They have some color. These won't look like everybody else's little square sign. We got some color and some splash on it, so it'll help us, I think. Attendance is up. We had a great meeting last time. We must have had 25 people there. It was a great meeting. Partner with Weddle. We're working with the principal now on a regular basis. She's been coming to our meetings off and on, and we're interested in trying to figure out a solution to the beaver dam in our neighborhood that's backing up water, and it's threatening some houses south of the bridge. So we're still working on that. We're still trying to get a helmet program going on. We had one back in the 90s where we gave away Slurpee coupons for every kid that wore a helmet. So the police were getting swarmed every time they parked. My kids on bicycles. We saw helmets go from a handlebar to a head every time they saw a police officer. So it was working. But unfortunately, we're back to where the kids, it's not cool to wear helmets and or coats even in the rain. I don't know about some of these kids. Our education system's sometimes a little. But anyway, that's one of the things we're going to be working on in the future. We're also still proud of the Southeast Keizer Community Center, which will celebrate 24 years, May 5th this year. Cinco de Mayo is 24 years it's been in existence and still running. That's something to be proud of. With that, that's about all I had. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting things because it's been an active year, but that's pretty much my report tonight.
All right. Thank you so much. Wow, I was trying to keep up and you maybe type very, very fast. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe this goes to Mr. Lawyer, I'm not sure who, any progress on figuring out who's responsible for helping those homes not get flooded by the beaver dams? Or are we still talking like this is the train station in Yellowstone here in Keizer?
Best answer I could give you is that's a civil matter between the property owners, and the state has been involved, ODF and W, and other state agencies, DSL, to help the property owners, to help assist the property owners in resolving the issue.
Weren't they told by those agencies, though, when they came here and testified that those agencies weren't responsible for it? That was why I asked the first time. It sounds like we're talking about the train station in Yellowstone because nobody wanted to take responsibility for it. So where are we with that?
It's a civil matter to be settled by the courts, is the best answer I can give you.
Civil matter settled by the court. Wow. Okay, thank you.
All right, other questions? And so Ken, if people want to find out more about the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association, where do they find out?
On Facebook, it's Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association 2016.
All right.
And it's an active site. You'll get more information than you ever imagined.
That is a good thing. And we look forward to you and as many folks as possible from the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association to come to our work session that we'll be having again. I believe it's at the end of, it's on April 8th. So it's gonna be our next work session.
Absolutely. That was a very good work session we had with the community diversity group. I learned a lot. I think we've got some resources that are come online. I think it's going to help us all. Because I'm a dinosaur. I can't. That young lady, she was over my head. But she was wonderful in her presentation. I think there's some resources to be tapped there.
Absolutely. And help us with communication with all generations. Absolutely. Thank you.
I have to remember when heard the presentation on tobacco and substance abuse. I served as Keizer's representative on a group called Stomp back in the 90s trying to cut down on tobacco use. We used to go out and test stores, and if they failed, we hand them a note said you failed, you need to retrain. If they passed, they got a bouquet or some cookies or whatever we had donated to give out. And it was a pretty successful program while it lasted. And then it kind of faded away, and of course it's back up again. So here we start over again, unfortunately. And that's too bad.
Yep. Got to train each cycle of employees and generations on, the realities
Yeah,
of tobacco use and the other substances we heard about tonight. Absolutely right.
that fentanyl scares the hell out of me.
Right there with your brother.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. That is everything I have for committee reports before we go to public comment. Was there any committee report that I missed? Okay. Public comment this time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearings. We have one public hearing scheduled for this evening. That is the ordinance to vacate a portion of 15th Avenue North, Keizer, Oregon. If you're here for that, I have the sign-up sheet, so stay tuned. I do not have anybody signed up for public comment, so I want to open the floor in case there was someone who would like to comment this evening. Okay. We're all waiting then for the public hearing. So let's go to that, item 7A, which is a public hearing on the ordinance to vacate a portion of 15th Avenue North, Keizer, Oregon. Public hearing is now open. I'll turn it over to, let's go to Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor and Council. During the February 20th, 2024 City Council meeting, Resolution R 2024-3447 was adopted, initiating the vacation process for a portion of 15th Avenue North in Keizer, Oregon. The background on this topic. Just during the review of an application for a property line adjustment, Public Works staff discovered an existing fence was constructed in the right-of-way on 15th Avenue North. The Public Works Director and the City Attorney discussed the options available to vacate a portion of the existing right-of-way and determined it was most efficient to have the city initiate the vacationing process. A portion of the right-of-way for 15th Avenue was previously vacated by the City of Keizer at the previous property owner's request. The current situation is, again, at the February 20th, 2024 City Council meeting, Resolution 2024-3447 was adopted, initiating the vacation process for a portion of 15th Avenue North. A public hearing is the required next step in the vacationing process. A portion of the fence along the western property line of 1480 Rafael Court North was constructed with the unused portion of within the unused portion of the street right-of-way. Due to the shape of the street, this portion would never be needed for future street widening. Options to resolve this issue were considered, including relocating the fence and vacating a portion of the right-of-way. Staff discussed methods available to vacate the right-of-way, and again, it was determined that having the city initiate the process was the preferable method. This does not have any strategic impact. The financial obligations are basically negligible to the city, if any, as the property owner has agreed to pay the cost for the process up to $1,000. The costs involved are surveying costs, mailing costs, publication costs, posting costs, and recording costs. The public hearing is the next step in this process, and city council authorization is required for the vacation of public right-of-way. Alternatives for this topic are adopt the attached ordinance, do nothing, the existing fence will remain in the right-of-way, or require the property owner to relocate the existing fence outside of the right-of-way. Staff recommends council open the public hearing and take testimony. If there are no remaining questions, close the public hearing and adopt the attached resolution or adopt the ordinance. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Lawyer, any questions on the staff report or the ordinance before us? All right, seeing none, I would like to acknowledge for the record that we have two items of written testimony, one from Rhonda Rich, who is the applicant here, and one from David Hilgeman and Vicki Hilgeman in support of this, of this action. So I want to acknowledge both of those for the record. Thank you both for being here tonight. Before I call up Ms. Rich, any question, anything further? So I would invite Rhonda Rich come up, and it is your time.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council and staff. First of all, I want to, my name is Rhonda Rich, and I live in Keizer. And first of all, I want to thank Bill Lawyer, and City Attorney Emeritus Shannon Johnson, who was involved with this last year, and also City Attorney Joseph Lindsay, for bringing this to you, and encourage you to have this public hearing. I own the property of 1480 Rafael, and do own the fence that's in the existing right-of-way right now. That fence has been there over 20 years. As Bill said, it was discovered when there was a property line adjustment. So really what I want to do is just leave my fence there, and it will line up with the new property line. So that's my only interest in this vacation of this kind of triangular area. And back when the street was vacated, it probably would have been a good idea to kind of curve the street vacation, because if you went by there, it is on a curve. We're on a cul-de-sac. So it would have been nice to have that included, so we wouldn't have to be here today. But it wasn't, and so I just request that you approve this ordinance. So, like I said, my only interest is to leave my fence in that area, and the fence actually sits back about 15 feet from the sidewalk, I'd say, so it's set back quite a ways too. So if you have any questions of me, I'm here to answer.
Well, thank you. Any questions
Okay.
for Ms. Ridge? We have no questions. I think we got the information in the packet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to testify in this hearing? The floor is open. All right, seeing none. Anything further before I close the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr.
I move the city council adopt ordinance number 2024 to vacate a portion of 15th Avenue North in Keizer, Oregon.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt ordinance number 2024 to vacate a portion of 15th Avenue North, Keizer, Oregon. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. All right. Fixed that one. Looks like in the past we missed a spot. All right. That will take us now to administrative action. Item 8A, which is a telecommunications franchise between the City of Keizer and Ziply Fiber Pacific LLC. Mr. Lindsay.
Yes, and are you Miss Epley? I am. Okay, Miss Epley is here from Ziply to answer any questions as well, if you don't mind taking a seat up here. We're trying to kind of bring you this information first before you make any decisions. This is a first in our city as far as a telecommunications provider having a franchise. And so I'm sure there is a little bit of learning to go with having her presentation here. And the real deal is that telecommunications providers are like any other utility. They want to be in our public right-of-way, and the way in which cities control their public right-of-ways are through franchise agreements under state statutes. So we're glad that Ziply is interested in coming to town and wants to do this in the correct way. And so it's been an amicable kind of back and forth with trying to create what we think is a good precedent for a telecommunications franchise, given that our city right now doesn't have a telecommunications ordinance to play off of. We put more it by way of, we beefed it up with the way in which if we want things moved or when we need to come to some sort of agreement about where things are. So there's more in here than maybe your typical telecommunications franchise. But what I will say is we've also left open the door with knowledge that we could potentially have a right-of-way ordinance. And so we've prognosticated that if in the future we get this right-of-way ordinance, that will also, the parties know exactly how that will control. Mm-hmm. So we tried to kind of see the future in that. I would note, and Ms. Epley could say more about this, I'm sure, but Ziply is in current locations like Beaverton and Albany and Corvallis and Lebanon and Springfield and, is it Cornelius, I think, and other places around. And so I think they just want to expand their empire a little bit and come into town. Some of the discussions we had was, a level playing field is super important in the telecommunications world. And so we have to treat them like we treat other folks. And so she was keenly aware that some of our other utilities, currently, we encourage people whenever it's new that goes underground. But if there are existing poles where people get to go above ground, then we've let other people go above ground. And then whenever there's redevelopment, we make them go underground. And so that's also put forward in here. They have agreed to the statutory maximum amount for telecommunications franchise, which is 7% of gross revenues. And so they're willing to come and be a top-paying provider of the telecommunications service. And with that, I would answer any legal questions or defer to Ms. Epley for all sorts of questions probably about her company.
All right, thank you. Before we go to you, any questions on the staff report at this time? All right, Ms. Epley, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff. I appreciate having the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Jessica Epley. I'm the Vice President of Regulatory and External Affairs at Ziply Fiber. Ziply Fiber's history in the state of Oregon actually goes back to the early 1960s. You might have heard of this little company, GTE. It was one of the big telephone operators here in Oregon. GTE became Verizon, which then sold their resources to Frontier Communications. And in 2020, May 1st of 2020, Ziply Fiber was born as a company, taking some of those assets from Frontier Communications. We purchased this sort of dying incumbency, this copper-heavy telecommunications network on the premise that you could take something that had really good bones, you could put some really fancy glass and some high-powered electronics, you can actually reduce your carbon footprint and your energy usage, and you can make something people actually want, because I don't know how many of you still have a landline telephone. Here in Keizer, it would be provided by CenturyLink or Lumen or whatever name they're going by today. That would be your only option for a phone. And then you had lots of other companies that came along and decided they were going to do really fancy things with different types of technology. But what we know is the copper of 100 years ago is the glass of today. And the glass that we propose to put into the city of Keizer, serving just under 11,000 locations total, is going to carry this city into the next 50, possibly 100 years, depending on how electronics keep up. We will be installing through both aerial and underground techniques. We would like to get started in our construction in the first part of this year. So depending on how this conversation goes, we're sort of targeting the June kickoff for our groundbreaking. And our goal would be to, whereas in many cities, we've kind of gone wall to wall and we've done all the aerial up front, then we've come back later and done anything that's underground. We're going to take a different approach because we are working with the city of Salem. And I'll tell you, you guys are a little ahead of the curve here. You can beat Salem out for getting us here first. But because we are planning to connect both communities, leveraging a point of presence that's actually just outside of both city limits, it would be great to start at one end and kind of work our way across the area. So you'll have a long-standing crew and a team of folks. We'll have fielders in market, so you actually have Ziply Fiber staff. I personally am just up in Tigard, so something goes wrong, I'll be back here in front of you all. Cross our fingers that won't happen, but it's construction and people get upset. You don't have backyard feed here. So I'm gonna just commend you on having the wherewithal when you were designing your utility infrastructure. You didn't put people in the backyard because people always get upset when I come knock and say, hey, I need to string some fiber up back there. So this is 100% our own investment. We would expect this construction to take us somewhere between 14 and 18 weeks total. It's unlikely that we would do it all in one go. It would be sort of methodically done over time, mostly because your permitting staff would hate us if we tried to do it all at once. So we try to be very mindful of that. I'm very excited to be a part of this community. We serve as an incumbent telephone provider about 40% of Oregon today. So have a lot of experience in this business and come with some really smart technology that's going to help you guys go forward into the future. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Questions for Ms. Epley? Looking. All right, well, thank you so much. And whether things are going right or wrong, don't be a stranger. We'd like to hear from folks and keep up on businesses here in Keizer. So this goes out to the entire community. So just want to extend the invitation.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I will be back.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Lindsay?
Yeah.
So next steps?
Next steps would be if you direct staff to prepare an ordinance, we can make this agreement into law, and then therefore it can become, depending on what the vote is, either if it passes, can have a second vote, or if it's unanimous, then you wouldn't need a second vote, and you'd come back 30 days later with the ability to act under this if you were Zipley and you guys were so inclined to let him do it.
All right. Council President Starr, do you want to put a motion on the table?
Sure thing. I move to direct staff to prepare an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a non-exclusive telecommunications franchise agreement with Zipley Fiber Pacific LLC to come before city council at the next general meeting.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a non-exclusive telecommunications franchise agreement with Zipley Fiber Pacific LLC to come before the city council at the next general meeting. Our next general meeting is April 1st, so is that enough time?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the lion's share of all of this was getting to this agreement ahead of time. So since we're all there, we just need to draft an ordinance and bring it in front of you.
And I would agree, a tremendous brain, mouth, work. A tremendous amount of background material was in the packet, and I appreciated being able to dive into that work. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. All right. Looking forward to that coming to us in April. All right, item 8B, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for an Oregon Parks and Recreation Department local government grant for improvements at Keizer Rapids Park turf fields. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Before you is a request to approve a resolution to allow us to submit an application to the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department local government grant program. This is to chip off another piece of the turf field complex. The funds we had between the county and city were enough to complete the fields themselves, the fence and the lights. And this is an opportunity for us to chip off another piece of that project, making the remainder smaller. With this request that fits with the county and state priorities, which we need to line up with to be successful with the grant. We want to include the bathroom facility and the bicycle and pedestrian facilities and the handicap spaces. Now we are planning on putting some handicap spaces in with the current development. We have to for accessibility reasons, but this will add them where they fit in the master site plan. So this average award for this is around $400,000. The maximum award for the large grant category is $1 million. And we're putting together this package with these bicycle and pedestrian improvements and the bathroom, which would include water and sewer to that bathroom. And the other, we're trying to put something together around the $750,000 to $800,000 mark to maximize that grant request. It's a good year to ask for the grant request. I almost hesitate in putting this out there, but there was $14 million the last 2 years, and this year they have $34 million to work with. So really think this is a good year to ask. They've never had that much to give away, so. And It's a 50-50 match, so our match will come out of the remaining city and county match funds from the original $2 million and $2 million match between the city and county. Plus, we also have system development charges of, I think, up to around $600,000 that we can use towards match money for this project. So we shouldn't have any problem being able to make the match requirement for this ask. And with that, the deadline is April 1st for submitting for the large grant category. And that's why we're asking for approval of this resolution tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Council President Starr.
I move the City Council adopt Resolution R2024, authorizing the city manager to apply for Oregon Parks and Recreation Department local government grant for improvements at Keizer Rapids Park turf fields.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R2024, authorizing the city manager to apply for Oregon Parks and Recreation Department local government grant for improvements at Keizer Rapids Park turf fields. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Great work, thank you. Let's think good thoughts. Let's go to item 8C, which is a discussion regarding the city council social media policies. Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you. So this is before you, just simply for discussion. This is, I know, back here on your short-term goals, it does say development of social media policy, but I also know that I wasn't here when that was made a short-term goal. So I had to kind of extrapolate when coming up with this particular proposed social media policy. I guess I assumed that it was a social media policy that would affect the council itself. And so I also know that we have certain social media policies already in place for our own website. And then we also have some that are coming about because of personnel policies in the future for our staff. So the discussion whether or not what the council meant up here, and sorry I wasn't there for that discussion, but this discussion, I guess, starts out as a discussion about what the council wants for itself and its own social media policies, and that's clearly up to the council. I did note in my staff report that you guys have city council rules of procedure. You have it's 19.1, and it's only 4 little points, and that points mostly to that if you're going to set up an official web page, that you should use a city originated email for that. But otherwise, it was, I guess, I had it told to me, and I'm not sure, you talk to different people and they hear even different things from different meetings, but I would say that it was told to me that that was intentionally left skinny at the time because they thought there was going to be a whole, more robust social media policy. I'm not sure when that was. It could have been a few years back even. So what I've done is I grabbed a social media policy from the League of Oregon Cities because they put out a model social media policy. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, it is probably one that you would call very risk averse. So I believe it looks to ratchet up policies, reminding people, the very safest bet when you're operating online. And some people have a different appetite for, how much they want to make everybody on the council, toe a line and where that line's going to be. And so I would say it represents probably the strictest policy. So you guys can feel free to, water it down a little bit. You can feel free to ask me all sorts of questions about the law. I would note too that on Friday morning, the U.S. Supreme Court came up with it's a case called Lindke v. Freed, and it created even a new test for when city officials have websites that then look to block individuals, and kind of the interplay between people's First Amendment rights when there's a public forum versus when it's just your own private forum. Because we are starting to talk then about, you guys can have private web pages as well as public web pages. And so, just so everybody knows what we're talking about, if you're trying to make policy and you're reaching out and you're kind of constraining what you're doing as an individual citizen, that may seem more problematic versus constraining, you know, what you are as a public official when you're acting in your official capacity. And so those are kind of all of the interplays here as we're putting forward this potential draft, which is probably a stricter draft, just by admission. But whether or not you want it to be that strict is up to you. And I will happily pull apart, redefine, redo, whatever the council wants. So this discussion is about how you guys want to proceed.
All right.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Brown.
I just wanted to add, our recommendation really comes down to how risk averse or high risk tolerant or low risk tolerant you want to be. And like Mr. Lindsay said, if you're have a high risk tolerance, then you would say, we don't need something this strict. I'm okay being a custodian of public records, and if asked, I'll produce it. And just know that you would, have to produce something and not allowed to delete any type of public record. If you're low risk tolerant, then you would want a policy like this that would, we have a service that could capture everything so that it couldn't be accidentally deleted. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to your comfort level. I have horror stories like any city manager would about public records, but that doesn't mean that we should have to have the strictest policy out there. It really comes down to your risk tolerance.
Okay, so as I was reading through this, there was kind of two separate sections. One was on email, and that one struck me as being pretty cut and dry. We're used to our emails being required to be public records. That's all retained here. If we receive something on an email other than our own, we all know we're supposed to forward it to our city email, which automatically creates the public record. And most of us have put onto our signature lines, this email is a public record, so that anybody who gets a reply from us is notified that our emails are public record. So I'm not sure, I didn't have any heartburn reading through any of the email portion of this. Did anybody have any comments and questions on the email portion? Councilor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you're talking about just the straight email, I think that's straightforward. I think in regards to the social media pages, I would think that I don't consider my public page a counselor page because I post what I do at work. I never say I'm straight across, I'm a Keizer City Councilor. This is where I would be even if I wasn't a city councilor. So I would not feel comfortable using an email. And I think I went over with Mr. Lindsay with this because I do understand it's a recommendation from League of Oregon City, but they weren't able, him or Adam Brown, unless something's changed today to give me a city that's implemented it. Mm-hmm. Is that still correct?
Yeah, I'm unaware of any cities who have wholesale just used this policy and injected it into their policies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So any questions on the email portion? And again, I think we have some really good guidelines in place in our council rules and procedures regarding email. So I'm not seeing a lot in here that is different from what we already have on record.
And it would say, part of having a policy like this, I think it just reminds you what the law is, and you'd always have to follow the law anyway. But what you may see is you can go to this and it will tell you when you can, or what you can't have in email basically, but what you can stray from. Mm-hmm. So that is, I think, a little helpful, but otherwise, no, I think by not only what you guys have been doing in practice, this sort of codifies that in a way.
So, to Counselor Cross's point, and this is the one that I think caught a lot of us, during the COVID era, was on social media. There was a lot of questions about our different, social media platforms and the uses of, those of us who have created our own accounts versus ones that are city created. So my Mayor Kathy Clark page is one I created. Does not have a city email. It was created long before, any of this really came to the fore, and I'm not required, as I understand from this, to switch it over to be that. However, because I do post and comment on city events, issues, and so forth, I retain everything as a public record. One of the questions I've had is on content, and that is, and I have generally used the rules that we have for, in our city council rules and procedures for public comment. If a person is commenting on something relevant to the city, great. But if they're impugning the character and motivation of people on council, staff, or in the community, that is outside the purview here. I use those same rules on my social media. That if someone is commenting on with that attitude of impugning the character and motivation of other people, I don't delete, but I hide it because it's not appropriate. Or when somebody tries to insert an advertisement in the middle of a string going, hey, you can buy this widget from outer wherever, and they insert it into a comment, and I go, I am not advertising your stuff.
Well, and again, this is one of those where the law is the law, and you can make a policy sometimes almost as a reminder of what the law is so that you can access that instead of look under the law, for the answer. So it's kind of a repository of best practices. But I will say this, content itself, if it's, not on the subject, or like you say, it has advertisements or those sorts of things, those are easily removed from comment sections. If you are doing conversations about city business and you happen to be official, then you are really creating a public record.
Absolutely.
And so the deal is too, and I don't know how you guys have your pages set up necessarily, but if you don't have, all of the comments available for all time anyway, we just ask that you keep those, retain those, under the public meetings laws and public records laws. There's retention schedules. And so, and that doesn't change whether or not you have a policy or not. So I mean, truly, you're covered in doing what you're doing by law and also mandated by law to keep doing what you're doing and following the law. This was an attempt to kind of lay out, and the league had done this in a way to kind of let you know where it's safe. Like you say, what subject area can I go? That doesn't need to be retained or put up, in my comment section. What category does this kind of fall under so that I know I don't have to live with something that's just advertisement or not on point, that sort of thing. So.
That's helpful for me. I do a great deal of Facebook and Instagram. I never tweeted. I couldn't figure it out. Maybe I'm just not of that generation. So that was a big issue that was really, it was a huge thing, especially during these last 4 years, excuse me, with social media and, public records who could comment on what, but also the content. And it was the impugning of character and motivation of others. We have the rules here, but I felt that, and based on what I read here, that is a standard that can be applied in social media.
Is not a standard, you said?
Is a standard
okay.
that can be applied in social media. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, it gets a little dicey depending on, I mean, it's easier to have these bright line areas under law. So, like when we look down here and it's like conduct or encouragement of illegal activity. That's like an easy one. when you start saying impugning of character, some people are more easily offended than others. You know what I mean? So at a certain point, that's a slippery, more gray area, frankly. Under law, it's not a bright line rule. But here's the thing too, if you guys are operating right now, like it sounds like most people are, not with a official city email attached to it, and it's your own page, then part of what you're doing could be construed under the new test as a private citizen, you know, interacting, and then part of it could be construed as, you know, you're in your official capacity, having discussions about city business. And there's a completely different test for when you're a private citizen, because private citizens aren't creating a public forum necessarily. And so the content-based, you know, censorship doesn't apply to private citizens. It does to governments. So this current case does open up more gray in the area that you're talking about, because as a private citizen, you don't have to put up with, you know, other people's viewpoints, but as a public servant, working in a public fashion, you do.
Well, and other viewpoints are not something I'm terribly concerned about. It's when there's content that is not relevant to the conversation, as was mentioned here, like somebody trying to insert an advertisement in the middle of a chain. We're all a number of us are seeing that now, where all of a sudden you're doing in a chain, and all of a sudden somebody pops in with, hey, you too can buy these mugs and t-shirts for whatever. And I go, I don't think that's really part of the conversation here. And I don't want to be seen as promoting that person's business in my or personal or professional capacity. So that's a concern for me. And one of the tools is to be able to not delete but hide. So the content has not been deleted, has not been destroyed. It is simply not progressing out there.
Yeah, and that's helpful, because then you're not destroying a potential record. You're retaining it, and then if there was a dispute over what it was, it would still be there.
It's still there. It's still there. But I'm not going to be promoting the mugs and t-shirts that have, even if they have cute kitties on them. That's not what I really want to be about. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I was reading through that Supreme Court ruling, it said this right includes the ability to speak about any information related to learned through your employment, right? So that under the test would not be considered a city council page.
Yeah, so before this case today, or Friday, I believe it was the Sixth Circuit was ruling basically just wholesale that if it was a page that was attached to a city manager and somebody kept kind of being intrusive and over the top and eventually got blocked by the person, it was considered wholesale violation of that person's First Amendment rights to speech in a public forum. And what this case says is, no, it wouldn't necessarily be a public forum if it, wasn't, there's a two-pronged test now. One is that you are operating in your official capacity, and you're also purporting to be operating in your official capacity, meaning not only are you saying, you know, I'm talking as a city councilor right now, for instance, or council member, or mayor, but also, you're outwardly saying that at the same time. And so this does kind of give you more rights in your website to not wholesale consider, just because you have one, it doesn't mean it's a constant public forum. So if you're starting a discussion and it has to do with city business, I would say that right there, you're starting to act like a public forum, right? And so then you want to be a little bit more vigilant about not doing content-based censorship, like, you know, viewpoint censorship, like, I don't like your views, so I'm just erasing you right now. Whereas if you're talking about, like you say, your employment, and you're just saying stuff about that, you're acting really as a private citizen in that.
I got it. Follow up?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I guess I don't know if it was Councilor Stewart, maybe I asked, or maybe it was I'll just blame it on Councilor Duran. But I thought this short term was about employees, not city councilors, to begin with.
It was, just for a little bit of history, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
It was all of the above because so much of our social media, and I'll look to Ms. DePina for the personal policy side. But on the city council side, there were questions as we were setting up pages, you know, should it be a city created page? So for a while there, the city was creating Facebook pages that were owned and operated by the city on behalf of city council members, and I think some of you use them. The one I created. It was not created by the city. So there was, you know, if it has been, what I'm understanding is if it was created by the city, it is a city-owned, operated, administered. Mine is not, but I do business, so I treat it as an official page. I'm very careful about the records, about the content, and again, about the, you know, not censoring, but especially during some time periods, I've had to really be aware of comments that people made that were impugning the character and motivation of people in the community. And using that tool to, I knew it was there, but to use the hide tool, especially if it was, you know, particularly egregious or
Defamatory.
very defamatory.
Yeah.
That's a great word. Thank you. I like that one. That's 25-cent word. And it was upon occasion. So that's how I've run it. But we're in the process of developing the personnel policies because social media has evolved so quickly. Does that help at all?
Yeah. Okay, can I have a follow-up, please?
Yeah, follow up, and then I would like to go to Ms. DePina.
So I guess on this one, with all the things we have going on with the city of Keizer, I just don't understand like the staff hours that we're putting towards this. And I don't particularly, I'm not fond of it in an election year. And I think it's a government overreach. I work for the people, not League Morgan Cities.
I think that one of the reasons we need to take it up is because this has been the subject of legal action, has put us at risk, both personally and professionally. And that's why we needed the clarity on the management of our social media. There have been people who have been sued across the country, and we wanted to make sure that we were really clear on the use and management of our social media so that we stayed within the boundaries of public meeting and open meeting law, especially in Oregon, which is stricter than in other states. So it's been a long time coming to make sure we have the appropriate rules and procedures in place, partly to protect us and partly to ensure that we're in compliance with open meeting law. That's why this has needed to be developed. Ms. DePina?
Thank you, Mary Clark. On this subject, my memory is also the same, that it was an across-the-board interest in this topic. I think it's on the short-term goals list, however, specific to the council, because that is the council's goal list. Obviously, the city itself, knowing that that's a high priority, also pays special attention to that topic when we were reviewing our personnel policy manual and drafting the language there. It's a bit more challenging, in my opinion, for the council because you have pages, whether created by yourself or others out there, and the public doesn't know the intricacies of that. They don't know who created the page, and their presumption is it's a city page. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm hoping that you'll determine that it's important to address this issue for your own protection, and so that we can continue as a city to be as, using the popular word, transparent as possible, sharing information out with folks, but doing that in a way that we're following all the rules and guidelines and not putting ourselves in legal jeopardy as we do so.
Thank you very much. Councilor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I know you said, I mean, really, I'm going to put it out there. You can get sued for anything, really. I can get sued for walking and somebody can sue me. There's going to be an ambulance chaser out there, in my opinion. Yeah. Is there a city that just recently got sued in Oregon?
Not that I'm aware of, although I would say that this case right here that was, you know what I mean? It's happening. what I always tell people is you can be sued for almost anything at any time for any reason,
100%.
except it doesn't necessarily mean it has merit. And so I guess the dial back on that is how, if you don't give people a meritorious case, then, you know, the likelihood of somebody bringing it up is less, and the likelihood of you having found to have liability in the case is less. And so there is always a balancing act between how much you set yourself, you know, in a super safe zone versus like a medium zone versus like a higher risk zone. But what I'll say is, and maybe a conversation like this invites people to then look at you differently too. But I know that if you're, for instance, you mentioned the campaign coming up, if you have a page that didn't use any city resources to set up, right? You didn't use like your underlying email, then yeah, that page is separate from the city. You can be creating public records on it, and those need to be retained or whatever, but that itself doesn't mean that you can't operate it in the way that you see fit. And so campaigning wise, you shouldn't have any sort of issue. If you were to follow suit with some of these parameters, if you were to create a website that became an official city website using, you know, city resources like a city email, and what we would do then is we would attach a archiving software so that all of your stuff could be saved so you wouldn't have to worry about it. So those are the two extremes. Like you could lawfully be on your own, like the mayor is saying too. Her page is separate from the city, and you can use that in any which way you want, right? But the law still says if you create a public document, you got to retain it.
Bingo.
Or you could say, I would rather go the super ratcheted up version where if I create a public or a very particular official website using city resources, that all of it will be archived by the city. So those are kind of your two extremes. If you want me to try to fashion something in the middle, or, you know, something else, I'm not only all ears, I'm, you know, trying to be as helpful as possible, so.
Does that help?
I don't think it really helps because, I mean, but I appreciate you letting me know. I guess I'm just really having a hard time with this when I've never heard of anything or any constrictions, and the way I'm reading it, there's not a problem. So I just see more staff hours and more staff dollars being spent, and I'm just not good with that. But thank you.
Yeah.
Council President Starr.
I'm just looking at the clock. I'm looking at a really long social media policy and email policy. I'm not thinking it's a good idea to try and hash out and write policy from the dais after 9 o'clock. But that's just me after a very long weekend. I'm curious, kind of what the temperature of my colleagues are about either A, taking this up at a work session where the main focus is to like go through this, or break it up into chunks, smaller chunks before 9 o'clock in future city council meetings to get through them. So we're not trying to, what is this? So 1, 2, 3 page social media policy, because I do turn into a pumpkin after 9, so nothing good is gonna come out policy-wise if I have to write it.
I appreciate that.
So with that, there is a need for this. I appreciate the comments from Councilor Cross. Having been through this with there have been actions taken by folks here and elsewhere to hold personally liable, to sue, to create all sorts of difficulties for city council members, volunteers across the state to manage social media in a way that is in compliance with Oregon State open meeting law and transparency. It is really important to get that right. And it's been evolving as social media has been evolving. This newest Supreme Court case is a new wrinkle. And I thankful for it because I think that's a really good indicator that we're starting to hit a bit of a balance. But it has been a very tricky road to travel for a lot of us, especially these last few years. And I would really appreciate taking the time to get it right. Mr. Pina and the executive leadership team has spent a lot of time on the staff side to make sure they get it right. Again, it's all public record, it's all got to be out there, and it all has to be transparent and recorded and retained. And we've got to make sure we get that right. So with council concurrence, I'd like to go ahead and schedule a work session on this so we can go through it step by step. Any objection? All right, we will schedule a work session to go over this.
And Madam Mayor, if,
Mr. Lindsay.
if I may, in the meantime, because I know we're down the road a ways, so it'll give me
Yeah.
a little time. I will try to come up with other examples as well.
Love
so
it.
that you don't have to feel locked in on this one.
I love other people's examples. Learning from other people's successes is great. Thank you so much. Let's go to the discussion regarding the retire rehire policy. We're getting close to the end. Are we going to be able to push through or need to take a 5-minute stretch break? I'm getting to push it. All right, let's do it. Retire rehire. Mr. Pina?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We are revisiting this subject after a council work session that took place on January 8th. I think you'll all recall all of the material and information that was shared, but is also attached to the staff report, so I'm not going to drag you through all of that again. However, we'll be happy to answer any questions you have about any of that material. During the work session, City Manager Brown mentioned there weren't as many folks coming into the workforce as those leaving, as an additional consideration that we didn't have in all that material. And staff was asked to prepare an analysis comparing the cost of adopting the work after retirement policy versus hiring new employees, as well as an analysis identifying the impact on future PERS employer contribution rates from adopting the work after retirement policy and using the employee contributions to pay down the city's obligation. We also discussed the topic again at the January 29th Personnel Policy Committee meeting. And it was reported at that meeting that we anticipated we'd have the requested analysis complete by the end of February. PPC members, Personnel Policy Committee members, commented on the need to make clear that this is not double dipping. They asked about the details of the accrual payouts before and after retirement and questioned whether the 5-year timeline should be shorter to be able to revise policy sooner if needed. Also asked was what happens with the current rehire folks, and they were told that those who retired and rehired now under the current policy will not be allowed to extend. And those who are eligible but had not yet retired would be eligible under a new policy should you choose to implement one. So our current situation is on February 1st, City Manager Brown invited all Keizer employees to respond to a staff feedback survey on the Retire Rehire program. On February 21st, he asked again, just to make sure that everyone who had an opportunity to respond that would want to, and left the survey open until February 26th. We've included the results in the packet. Couple of key questions. Do you believe Keizer should allow its employees to participate in the program? And that included that you'll be given an opportunity later to propose requirements or restrictions. Out of the 50 employees who responded, by the way, we have 103 budgeted positions. I believe we're at about 98 filled positions right now. 50 responses is pretty good. And out of the 50 responses, 58% said yes, they would like employees to be allowed to participate. 34% said yes, but with requirements and restrictions, and 8% said no. How long do you believe employees should be able to be rehired after retirement? 50% confirmed 2 years, and 17.4% said 5 years, 13% said 10 years, 13% said 1 year. And an unnamed percent said 3 years, but a small amount. City staff had previously identified pros and cons. I am going to repeat those because I think it's helpful for the discussion today. The pros: ability to retain experienced staff, ability to plan in advance of employee turnover, 6% short-term cost savings from not remitting the employee PERS contribution paid by the employer, and the employer PERS contribution used to pay down the existing PERS liability, resulting in long-term savings. Cons, including retaining more expensive staff, potentially delays in promotional and special duty opportunities, additional accrual payouts upon final retirement, and public perception. The feedback from staff, according to City Manager Brown, largely echoed what the recommendation of the exec leadership team recommended, which is the policy be extended for 5 years and the employees be allowed to be rehired in 2-year increments. Special assignments in the police department should be transitioned to others from rehires holding those responsibilities. And council should revisit the policy before the 5-year period to determine if it should be extended for the remaining period or some additional length under the 10-year window. At this, I will add that the strategic impact, I've tied this one to be most closely aligned to Goal 6 of the draft strategic plan, which is strong and sustainable government. Goals are efficient and effective in assessing ongoing staffing needs, retaining knowledge and experience where beneficial to the city, and strategically filling positions while taking advantage of the opportunity for overlap for knowledge transfer. It's our expectation that continued measured capacity to rehire retired city employees is supportive of this goal as it is currently presented in the draft strategic plan. And at this point, I would hand over to Tim to talk about the financial impact.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Under the existing retire-rehire policy, in which 7 of the 18 employees participated, the city saved about $100,000 by not remitting the 6% employee PERS contribution that is paid by the city. And also, long-term savings, we paid $419,000 roughly towards the overall pension liability. That's going to result in savings into the future of about $771,000. I'm taking that as an example for what the future policy could look like. If all eligible employees participated for the next 5 years, we could see a savings, immediate savings of $250,000 or $215,000 by not remitting the employee PERS contribution. We'd also be paying $1,076,000 towards the overall pension obligation, and that could get us some savings into the future of roughly about $2 million. So there is some significant financial benefits for us if we do move forward with the policy. If the new policy is adopted, there are 18 employees that are eligible for the next 5 years, of which those 12 are law enforcement related. Similar to what we talked about during the long-range planning meeting, I do present the Step 7 police officer compared to a Step 1 new hire. So this is specific to the variable costs that we would face. Overall, the total base compensation for a Step 7 employee is obviously higher at about $123,000 compared to a new hire at $94,000. However, when you factor out the payments toward the PERS obligation, the net employee cost is pretty comparable. Assuming we can get someone at Step 1, to the extent that we hire someone at a Step 2 or higher, that benefit of the rehire program is actually increased as that is the lower net overall cost. With that, that's the financial impact of the proposed policies.
So I've got, if I may, one question on your chart showing the total paid toward the PERS obligation, the $28,000. So that is this is 1 year, a 1-year snapshot, is that correct?
That is correct.
So that $28,000 paid toward the PERS obligation has an ongoing benefit of not paying that into the years in the future, which is how you calculated the overall savings over a longer period of time, correct?
Roughly, yes.
Okay, so there is some additional accrual, the fact that you've paid some down now, pay me now, pay me later, kind of that sort of thing, you're not paying later?
It's very similar to prepaying your debt, so you get out of the interest cost.
Okay, so there's some additional savings that is occurring
That's correct.
year over year. Okay, thank you. Counselor Duran?
On a step 1 and a step 7 employee, did they have the same time off? Is that figured in here?
That is not figured in. Typically, a step 7 has higher accrual rates than a step 1 does.
So that, this isn't actual, if you figure that in for time off and sick leave, is that the same?
Sick leave is the same.
Okay, so it's just time off.
Correct.
How much of a difference do you think that is?
I would have to look. I don't have it on the front of my brain tonight.
Okay. I'm just wondering, is it $5,000 over the year? 10,000? I don't know how much time they have, so.
I could comment on that, Counselor Duran, in that it's very difficult to do projections on leave time taken because every employee handles that differently.
Right, well, whether they take it or they get paid down
Correct.
eventually, I mean, it's still accrued, right?
It is accrued, yes. There's, I believe, 5 different hourly levels of leave pay based on how many years of employment you have.
Right, but a step 1 and a step 7 would be the total opposite, so I'm just trying to figure out
Correct.
what
That is accurate.
what that number would be. So I'd like that information eventually, thanks.
Okay, I can get that for you.
Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is more, not so much the fiscal question, is that okay? More policy, okay. So I'm looking at the report and kind of below where your charts are from the employee survey under the pros and cons. And under the cons, it talks about potentially delays promotional and special duty opportunities. And then in that paragraph below, it talks about special assignments in the police department should be transitioned to others from those rehires that were holding those responsibilities. So that we're not impacting or having a negative impact on potential promotional opportunities, special duty opportunities, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so where is that in the draft policy document? Because I've read through it a few times and I'm not seeing where that is specifically addressed in this work after retirement policy.
Apologies, you do not have a draft policy document at this time. You have the current policy.
Oh, the current one?
Yes.
Okay.
The draft policy would have such language should the council decide to ask us to move forward with that. At this point, we're just trying to determine, do you want to extend the policy?
I told you nothing good happens after
No
9
problem.
o'clock in my brain. Thank you.
Good question. Counselor Cross?
I already forgot my question, thank you.
Okay. All right.
It's after 9 o'clock.
All right. Anything further on questions? Mr. Wood?
Just to follow up on Counselor Duran's question, a step 7 officer will accrue 200 hours of vacation time compared to a step 1, which is 120. So you're looking at an 80-hour difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Brown?
One thing we did talk about as executive leadership team, though, is putting some boundaries around the use of time, making sure that time gets used by the rehires and it's not a big payout at the end. That's, I think, something that would go along with our recommendation if the council chooses to go forward.
Yeah, remember we just talked about that at the work session as well. Also, ongoing promotion of work-life balance, but in this particular case, and I noticed it's also in the proposed motion.
Yeah. That doesn't negate Councilor Duran's position, though, or his statement, though. Yeah.
It is a good point. But one's versus a payout versus a using the time. And we're going to be promoting using the time. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there a reason why we put in the motion, and this is more just for my own education, why we put in the motion that we want to include a limit on accrual caps and paid time off benefits, but we did not put anything in the motion about including that piece about transitioning, special duty assignments, et cetera?
It's simply, I would say it's simply not in the motion because we haven't had extensive discussion on that topic yet. And I had shared at the prior work session input that I had received from my peers around the state about some of the concerns that were raised by unions, primarily police unions, about those kinds of special assignments and the transitions of work. Even some unions who chose, a few that chose to not want to allow it for that reason. Most were supportive of the idea that it happens, but that there is an early transition. I wouldn't want to speak to what makes sense in the workload in the KPD without some additional discussion on that. I would propose, if I were writing it myself, that within the first 6 months, for example, we would transition special duties to other parties from the retire-rehire person. However, we've had an occasion, for example, where a police officer may have 4 or 5 special assignments. Is it doable for the Keizer Police Department to transition all of those within 6 months? That I do not know.
Follow up?
Thank you. Is that something that we should include? Like if we're going to include the paid time off accrual cap in this motion, is it the recommendation from staff that we also include something in the motion about, and I do not like writing motion stuff on the fly.
If I may.
But including something about that in the motion, about the transitioning duties and not prohibiting promotional opportunities.
If we could include language that is something like beginning transition early in the rehiree's return to work, without setting the timeline in the motion, I'd be perfectly supportive of that. And everyone else.
You could even say, or amended as discussed.
Yes. That's even better.
Can I use that for
After
everything?
9.
Thank you.
That's
That made me perk up. Okay.
All right.
Sketch off.
I think we can go with that. Council President, unless there's something else, Council President Starr, put a motion on the table.
I move that the Keizer City Council direct staff to bring back a resolution to the next regular city council meeting to adopt a retire rehire policy as provided by House Bill 2296 with a policy period of 5 years, a maximum rehire period of 2 years per retiree, and a limit on accrual caps and paid time off benefits to limit large lump sum payments at the end of the 2-year rehire period, and amend the policy as discussed to address special duty assignments and promotional opportunities.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to bring back a resolution to the next regular city council meeting to adopt a retire-rehire policy as provided by House Bill 2296 with a policy period of 5 years, maximum rehire period of 2 years per retiree, and a limit on accrual caps and paid time off benefits to limit large lump sum payments at the end of the 2-year rehire period, and amended as discussed. Anything further for discussion? Councilor Reed.
Just real quick, I just really appreciate having such comprehensive information with upon which to base our decisions. The staff survey was very helpful, and just all of these pieces brought together in the staff report. I just really appreciate that. I feel like I'm able to make a decision with being fully informed.
Thank you very much. Councilor Duran.
Now, is this policy something that automatically goes for each employee? Or can it go, do you guys evaluate each employee?
Counselor Duran, the current policy has some language in there with some parameters for who is eligible of those who are eligible within the retiree timeline. And it's specific to whether you have any disciplinary action at a certain level and whether you have a good performance evaluation. We intentionally chose not to have a process where you're kind of picking and choosing at the point that the employee requests this in order to be fair to all of our employees. If we're doing our job right, we shouldn't have folks at this point that have not already been addressed with discipline issues and that type of thing. So I do know that there are a couple of municipalities who have some really vague language in there that makes me very concerned because it calls into question equity among the employees if certain ones aren't allowed this opportunity and others are.
Follow up?
So I just was thinking about this. What if you have an employee that the last 2 months of their planned retirement rehire, they just are not, they've got half their foot out the door but they're going to come back because they really want to, and they're just not doing the job. Is there something that says, well, wait a minute, you guys, you're not doing what we've asked? And is there I just want to make sure there's something to say, we need to look at this and maybe not rehire them back or discipline them at that time and say, okay, this is you've just passed up on this because we've now disciplined you. I just want to make sure there's something there that says, hey, you're not doing your job, we're not bringing you back.
I would anticipate that it would be just what you said at the very end. If they have sunk to the level that they are not performing their duties, we would be disciplining them and they would not be automatically passed through to rehire program. They have to make a formal request for this and we have to assess that they meet the policy parameters. And we check on every single employee. We don't just go by our memory or that we like someone. I pull the files and I talk to the supervisor and the department director to make sure.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why that came into mind.
No
I've
problem.
just seen that in, people just kind of coasting, and then it's like, oh, well, I guess I better pick it up because I have this opportunity. Well, if they've screwed up that opportunity, I want to make sure they're not here.
I am happy to say that I don't believe we have any coasters at this moment. And those who decide to attempt to coast are brought into line very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just really quick. So when we see what staff does with the new ordinance, will we see what those policy parameters look like?
Absolutely.
And that will be included in the packet? Okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect, thank you.
Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So will there be something in there so that on a regular increment that we can review whether we want to continue like a 6-month thing or something, or because maybe you get somebody that says, well, I'm going to just stay on here for 2 years and 3 months later they're kind of doing half job. And how do we make sure that somebody stays motivated to actually do a good job rather than saying, I'm going to coast and just collect as much money as I can, baby?
I can tell you that they are under the exact same parameters and requirements and policies as regular status employees. They are limited duration employees. Everything still applies to them, and that's clearly pointed out during this entire process. There is no expectation of any change in performance other than they'll likely be training others on some of their duties and may be asked to be a bit more flexible in the things that they're working on. I don't personally, as the HR director, have any concerns about somebody signing off and then coming in and becoming a different employee. We haven't seen that in our experience with the folks that we've brought or continued on so far, and I don't anticipate it We know who those people are, and we have every expectation that if they choose to sign up, because not everyone does, that they will know that they're coming back to do the same level of job they were doing before.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Council President Starr, would you please read the items on tonight's consent calendar?
The consent calendar consists of items A, resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a 2024 Ford F-150 pickup truck for Public Works Department. Item B, resolution authorizing city manager to sign 2023 to 2025 CFEC Scenario Planning Grant, Salem Keizer Region Agreement. Item C, approval of February 20th, 2024 regular session minutes. And item D, approval of March 4th, 2024 regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? Council President Starr?
I move the Keizer City Council adopt and approve the consent calendar as read.
Second?
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Other business, this time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. Mr. Brown, does the staff have anything additional this evening?
We do not have any additional business.
All right, thank you very much. Councilors, anything additional this evening? Other business? Okay. Let's go to staff updates, and we'll start with Ms. DePina.
My apologies. I have nothing additional to share tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Brown?
Madam Mayor and Council, I just wanted to thank you for, I enjoyed working shoulder to shoulder with everyone on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed working with you as well. Mr. Wood?
City of Keizer, you can use all the water you want to.
All that you want to pay for. Yeah. Thank you very much, and great job to all of our staff members this weekend. Appreciate it. Ms. Bissett?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Chief Copeland?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Councilors. We are hosting the Keizer Chambers greeters tomorrow morning at the Rec at 8:30. So that should be a fun little event. As mentioned, we're doing the drug take back event on April 20th at Dayspring. And there's a national drug take back event that the DEA does. It's on the 27th. Dayspring wasn't available for then. So working with Miss Dickey, I let her pick the venue and the date. So that is when our city is going to do it. We're opening up hopefully by the end of this week, a new recruitment for lateral and for new officer. The tagging in the park is indicative of the rise in youth gangs in our county. And these are constant conversations we're having with other law enforcement leaders, with the school district, and with anybody else who wants to have the conversation. So, yeah, that is pretty consistent. We're seeing quite a bit new faces trying to join gangs and then marking in the parks, the territory, the crossing. And so it's in conjunction with that. I mentioned that, I think maybe offline, but I attended the Salem Police put together their gun violence reduction study, and then they presented that to the community. It was to the East Salem District was it last week or the week before? It was an amazing community event where people got to talk about why they gave the results of the studies, and the community was able to give feedback as to their opinion. So there's gonna be 3 more of those meetings, and I'll attend each of those. But it's working collaboratively with Sheriff Hunter, Chief Womack, and myself, because they're impacting all of us within our communities. Also, I'll give a report back on the next one, but we're meeting with the DA's office on Friday at 2 or 3 o'clock, I can't remember, to talk about the ballot measure 110 changes. So ballot measure 402 and 4002, and how the DA's office is going to interpret that and prosecute and try to hold people accountable for those type of things. And the last thing I have is we do still give out Slurpee coupons for helmets. So if you wear your helmet while you're riding your bicycle, you might get a Slurpee coupon.
There we go. Fantastic. Thank you so much on the public safety and the awareness of that the problems we have here in Keizer originate more broadly, regionally and nationally, and that the diligent work that you and your staff and our team, our partners do is critical for our safety. Thank you so much. Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple things real quick. For those that don't know already, the flashing speed signs are installed at Brooks and Alder, or in the vicinity of Brooks on Alder. Those went up last week. Thanks to the staff to get those done. And something that occurred to me on my way home from vacation, sitting on an airplane. We talked about a rapid flashing beacon at McClure and Lock Haven for next budget year. I'm going to be really, really challenged to get that built while school's not in session. I'm not quite sure how to do that. Christmas break's not a good time to pour concrete. Neither is spring break. I don't think I want to try and do it while school's in session. That leaves me a couple weeks at the end of June. So I will continue to strategize on how I can do that. We talked about it, put it in next year's budget. I was just thinking even starting design work now, which I can do, but the construction window, I'm not sure I can have it ready for construction July 1st. And if I can't have it ready for construction July 1st, it's going to be really, really difficult to get it built before school starts. So I just wanted to update the council on that, what occurred to me sitting on an airplane yesterday. So that's it.
So a question on coordinating with Keizer Elementary. Is there conversations that could be had with the staff, especially during that first part of school? I know it's really chaotic with the school buses and everything. I'm getting the head nod from Chief going, yeah, it's chaos. Okay, you know where I was going with the question.
Yeah, clearly my preference is to have it built and in place and ready to go for the first day of school.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure, mainly with the equipment availability and how long it takes to get it, that we can get it here in time to get it under construction and have it ready by the 1st of September. So I will keep you updated on that, but in my mind, it just hit me like a ton. Boy, this is really challenging time-wise. Okay. So I will keep you updated as I move forward and let you know if I figure out a way we can make it happen.
Okay. Councilor Cross, you had a question?
I just wanted to encourage you. You have an amazing executive team here, and I think you can do it.
Do we have concrete finishers that I'm not aware of?
Well, I was wondering could you do the prep work and get the pads set without the equipment? And so then when the equipment comes, it's not a big.
That's very, very likely to be done, but I know there's at least one of the ramps that needs to be redone to meet ADA standards. That's what I'm concerned about, not the pads or the foundations for the lights themselves. It's the sidewalk work.
Okay. What was that extra piece? But thank you. Yes, we have confidence that all due diligence will be done. Thank you. Mr. Witham.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
I do have something. Thank you for your work this morning at the first meeting of the CFEC Scenario Planning Advisory Committee with Councilor Duran. I was going to bring it up during our reports, but really appreciated our Keizer team being there, working with Marion County and City of Salem on what does this look like. So thank you for that. Mr. Lindsay.
And thank you to you, Madam Mayor, and to Councilor Duran, because it's really great that you guys are there.
Sounds like a party.
Oh, good times.
I guess personally, being a part of the cleanup on Saturday made me actually really proud of Keizer and the volunteerism around here. So you guys put your money where your mouth is, and it was a lot of funny and interesting conversations to have with people from the community around our work site. So it made it feel different and made it feel special. So, and then my wife turned 48 on the 13th, so happy birthday to her. And otherwise, for you guys to know, I am currently going to be negotiating the 2 utility and gas franchises coming up, so you'll see those soon. And Wednesday, I'm sitting in on a mediation. We got all the parties in our forfeiture case to all convene on one day, so we might get that resolved too. So hopefully we're moving forward.
We are really thinking good thoughts for that. Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. Councilmember reports. Yeah, no kidding. Counselor Cross.
Hi, thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of stuff have been going on. Thank you to Council President Starr and Chief Copeland. It was great seeing them at the YMCA signature event at the Convention Center. Oregon Governor's Conference was hosted for the 4th time at the Salem Convention Center. That was fantastic. This past Saturday, I did attend Jose Manuel Vasquez Valenzuela's service, which just makes me more passionate about the public safety and the gun violence and how we can be involved in a solution on there. His aunt has worked for the company and is one of my room attendants for the last 20 years. So that it was, it's very impactful to be there. So I'm praying for the community, their family, and everyone involved with that. Today, I was a judge for the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association Pro Start Championship. I've been involved with the hospitality program since 2019, and I just got, so the management competition for the first time, first place is Salem Career Technical Education Center. So they get a trip to Baltimore, Maryland in the National Pro Start for free on April 26th to 28th. So that's amazing. They have to restaurant concept. They have different judges for concept, marketing strategies, menu, food costs, and super exciting culinary competition. You have to develop a 3-course meal, food cost, and prepare it in 60 minutes using 2 burners, no electricity or running water, and McNary won.
Whoa.
So that's exciting, and I will leave it at that and make sure that I send pictures to all of you. Thank you.
World-class cells, fantastic. Thank you so much. Counselor Duran.
I'll make mine quick because everybody else talked about what I did, so I was where I was at, so it's not a big deal. SECNA group, that was probably the largest SECNA group that I had been at in a while, so I was really happy that I was there. It was nice to see people that I hadn't seen around for a little bit. I saw a lot of people that I have seen for a little bit, but it was nice to see them too. So Wednesday I did a planning commission with, and Matt did that, was told what we did pretty well. Last Thursday, I went to the West Keizer neighborhood, and that's not just a large group, that is a very large group. And it's always great to see the stuff that goes on there. I got to hear Shane again for the 2nd time in 2 weeks. There was more said, more questions. And then Lieutenant Hein was there to talk about the stuff that he does, and it was great. So I appreciate being able to go to those.
All right, thank you very much. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions for Chief Copeland. Can you be over 18 and still get a Slurpee if you wear your helmet?
It depends.
Oh, it depends. Good answer. Wonder where you got that from. And then second question, will there be any special guests from Keizer Police Department at the greeters event tomorrow?
More than likely, we will have a
'Cause I need
special
some-
guest attend.
I need some love. And then I just want to give a shout out to park staff and code enforcement officer Ben Crosby. They went above and beyond, I think, in responding to some graffiti in Country Glen Park that our kids walk by every day. And so I know Shane, he went above and beyond, and our neighborhood is now the proud owner of a gallon of paint for that bridge. So thank you for that. Just wanted to let people know that there is an opportunity from the school district for the general public from 1 to 7 p.m. on Friday, March 22nd at Stevens Middle School. It's a special viewing opportunity for demonstration of the weapons detection systems being considered for Salem Keizer Middle and High Schools So I'd encourage our community members to take advantage of that opportunity. General public is from 1 to 7. And then remind everybody for the Neighborhood Association, the joint meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. here for the mayor's State of the City address. So, and it was great seeing everybody on Saturday. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Kohler.
Wow, we'll make this really quick. State of the City was on the 12th. That was a lot of fun. Thank you, Mayor. And then Parks Board on the 12th, which has been reported on, and the Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association Board meeting, where we talked a lot about the meeting on the 20th, which Councilor Starr just talked about. Clay Creek Watershed Council, which was also talked about, Soggy Day in the Park on 5/25 at 11 to 3 p.m., Keizer Rapids Park. Thank you again for everybody that came to the cleanup on Saturday, and appreciate all that the lights have been replaced and repaired in the community center, in the living room, and in this room. If you notice, the lights are working. So thank you for whoever got that all done and put together. Special condolences for Council President Starr with her puppy.
Councilor Husband.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Traffic safety bike ped meeting this coming Thursday, the 21st, 6 p.m. These council chambers. Come on, come all. We'll talk rapid flashing beacons. I may be stealing a bit of thunder because it's spring break next week, but if you see a Salem Keizer Public Schools teacher, be sure to thank them for their service. If you want to hug them, be sure they have your consent. Thank you.
Speaking of Salem Keizer School District teachers, big hug, and Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Councilor Kohler and I had the privilege of going to the Whitaker Whitaker Area Orchestra concert that featured 3 of our schools, Forest Ridge, Clear Lake, and Gubser, and also the advanced orchestra at Whitaker. And it was a fabulous concert. It was really impressive, and just such a lot of work that went into that, and it's just great to see that community flourishing. So that was a lot of fun. Keizer Heritage Foundation, we got an update from the library, which we heard in council too, but they're just doing phenomenal work, and we really appreciate all the effort that they're doing. They're some of the highlights, they're working on engaging the Spanish community even more, and they are partnering with Keizer Art Association during spring break for programming, and it's really exciting to see the partnership of the different organizations in the Keizer Cultural Center, and we are really proud of them. One of the things that is going to be going on is Dr. Russell Lowe book signing event, April 5th at 6 p.m. And this will be, his book is about the Chinese immigrant story of Keizer residents. And so we are excited to see that. Again, that will be a cooperative event with the different cultural center tenants in there. So some really good work going on there. We have the Arts Commission meeting tomorrow. And then exciting to see by the end of the week, we have several entries for the If I Were Mayor contest. And several from Clear Lake Elementary School, and several from our own McNary seniors. And so by the end of the week, we should, as a council, give our input in that so that we can get that information out and make those awards and move those on to the state competition. So excited to see those.
Me too, yeah, you all got the links for the poster contest and the video contest, so please get your scores in to me so we can get those tallied and honor the folks who put that in and advance our winners to the state competition. So thank you very much for helping organize that. Really appreciate it. Youth Counselor Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I may be a little bit biased, but our mock trial team made it to state, and so that's what I was up to this past weekend. We're at the federal courthouse up in Portland. And so that was a lot of fun, but, you know, waking up early, very tired. But from McNary News is not too much. Future Freshman Day is next Thursday, April 4th. So, you know, Claggett and Whitaker kids will all be coming to McNary to tour the halls with their parents and such. And then prom, April 13th. But besides that, I do not have that much McNary News. Thank you.
Congratulations, by the way.
Spring sports.
Yeah, a lot of good sports, but congratulations to the mock trial team.
Thank you.
Well done. Just a couple things to add tonight. Let me scroll back up. I got to do the Read Across America at Weddell Elementary School. Just love reading with those kids and sharing some of my kids' and grandkids' favorite stories with them. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and PGE for hosting the State of the City address. Thank you to KBZY for allowing me to record, make an audio recording, which we will get posted or linked from our website shortly. I look forward to meeting with folks at the community conversation on Wednesday night this week, the 20th, starting at 7 p.m., State of the City. Just a little bit of a recap and then Q&A. Let's have a conversation about this great city. On the 13th, I had an opportunity to meet with our new Region 2 Director from ODOT, Savannah Crawford. She is amazing. She's done a tremendous amount of work, great transition to our next generation of leadership in ODOT. She's very savvy. She really is trying to learn our entire region, which spans all the way from Eugene, Springfield up to Astoria, and look forward to working with her going forward. Of course, we talked about the cleanup and so forth and the CFEX scenario planning. So coming up, we've got the State of the City address for the City of Salem is this week, and then the State of the County is on the 25th. Yeah, there it is, step further down my list. So that's coming up, no, that's in April. So it's coming up in April, so both of those are coming up. We've got spring break, as folks who have kids in school will know, and watch for kids being out and about. And I've got the SEDCOR Ag Breakfast is going to be on the 19th, so that's tomorrow morning. Looking forward to hearing about what is happening in our region for one of our key industries, actually the key industry, which is agriculture for the Mid-Willamette Valley. So, and then League of Oregon Cities, now that the legislature has adjourned, we'll back around and we're going to start working on policies, getting ready for the long session. There is no rest for the weary, no rest for the wicked, and the good don't need none. I don't know where we fall in that, but we got to get to work. So transportation policy and community economic development are getting underway. So yeehaw. With that, let's go to agenda input. And on Monday, April 1st, we will meet in regular session at 7 p.m. Monday, April 8th at 6 p.m., we will have our work session with the neighborhood associations. Looking forward to that. On Monday, April 15th at 7 p.m., tax day, we will meet at 7 p.m. in regular session. And then on Monday, April 29th at 6 p.m., we will have a work session on our draft procurement policy. That is all I have. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, the time is 9:54. We are adjourned.